13 may be unlucky for some, but not Ferrari. That's how many times the dominant team of 2002 have had a win this year. One more will equal the record. Not that it's been all plain sailing for the Italian team. Rubens Barrichello walked away from this terrifying 180-mile-an-hour crash to join teammate and world champion Michael Schumacher at the front of the grid. But come the start, will they be allowed to race each other?
Yes, as long as nothing silly happens. I say we don't want to do anything where the drivers are going to fall out. So it's just important that we don't have any situations develop where there's some ill feeling between the drivers. If we can avoid that, yeah, they're free to do what they like.
But the others want to have a say as well. David Coulthard hasn't qualified this well since way back in June in Monaco. Juan Pablo Montoya has won here in the Indy 500, and he plans to join the exclusive 5-strong club of drivers who've won the 500 and a Formula One Grand Prix. The most recent inductee into that Hall of Fame is Jacques Villeneuve, and he starts today from his best grid position of the season. It may be all about Ferrari, but one or two others plan to spoil the party. Yes, party time just around the corner, and I'm joined by two party animals, Jeremy Hart and Damon Hill. Damon, qualifying was very strange. It's almost as though the other teams have just given up and let Ferrari get on with it.
Yes, I think Ross Brawn's comments about there being no ill feeling, we can only hope that there is some ill feeling and that we have a real ding-dong battle between the Ferraris because they look so dominant again.
The situation is, I believe, that if Michael wins, Rubens is guaranteed the second place that they so desperately want for their next record. So why can't they just let them have a go?
I think they are. I think they're going to have a good ding-dong today until Ross Brawn confirmed that to us yesterday, exclusively here, that they were going to be allowed to race but not allowed to antagonise each other, God forbid. We're going to have a battle, hopefully. If not, we can all go home.
David just went. No, Eddie Irvine, we've been hailing him as the comeback kid, along with Jaguar. They've been doing so well in the last race and in the early days of preparation for this one, and now they ain't. Yes,
it does look like it went flat a little bit there, but I heard some comments from Eddie that they were caught out by tyres. Well, I mean, it's a nice excuse, but unfortunately the Bridgestones are the better tyre, and I think that explains Jacques Villeneuve's position, but nevertheless it's a long shot for them to repeat their Monza performance here.
Yeah, Jacques in his best position of the year, 7th. I mean, will he be able to capitalise on that?
I think he will. I think he'll get points here. He loves this kind of track. There's only a little bit that resembles the ovals that he used to race on when he was racing in America. But he's very buoyed up. He's very positive about what's going to happen next year. He's managed to hang on to his seat for next year at BAR. Then after, who knows what happens after that. But yeah, I think he'll get some points.
Now, John Watson maintained before this weekend began that Williams were going to win the race, but DC is nipped in ahead of them.
Yeah, and McLaren has been looking strong, and we've heard also that McLaren are looking to develop this car for next year and not changed completely to a new car, which is an indication that they feel they've still got a lot more to come from this car. And you see, the biggest problem really for McLaren and Williams is the tyre. They share the tyre, the Michelin tyre, but it seems that McLaren have made more progress with the development of their chassis this year than Williams have.
Last year there were some 200,000 people at this event, making it the biggest attended Grand Prix on the circuit. I don't think there may be a fewer number at the moment because they're all still reading from the Ryder Cup thing, and that won't be the last reference towards the Ryder Cup. But could this mean, or should this mean, that there'd be more American Grand Prix?
I think so. I think America is such a huge place. I mean, America's the size of Europe and more, and just to have one Grand Prix is not really representative of how big the place is and how many people they've got there, over 240 million Americans. And Indianapolis is Midwest. To have another race on the West Coast, which also has a huge racing heritage. It was a fantastic race they had in the 80s at Long Beach, which was a street race. I think another race there would be good news, and the time is almost right. There's talk, and we'll talk about this later, about 2 new American teams, a programme to get American racers back in Formula One. It's as if America's suddenly got F1 fever all over again.
Well, we were talking about Jacques Villeneuve a while ago. He's one of 5 men to have won the Indy 500 and the World Championship, and his form here has been impressive. Nick Damon talked to team boss David Richards about this weekend and beyond.
David Richards, I think it has to be said that overall a successful qualifying for BAR, especially for Jacques Villeneuve in 7th here.
No, Jacques did a great job, and obviously 7th position is best qualifying this year, so he's very, very pleased about it, yeah.
But Olivier, a slightly different story.
Yes, Olivier's had one of those weekends, and you know, sometimes you come to a race circuit and it just doesn't go right for you. Everything should go right, but everything just... On Friday he had problems, an electronic problem with the engine, which we didn't detect, and it just masked a whole load of things which we couldn't get to the bottom of. Today, different things went on during the course of the morning, and then in the qualifying itself, he had one time when he was balked, and then the next time he spun. Each set of tyres felt different to him as well, so it's disappointing for Olivier, but he did score a point from 16th in the last race, so it's not all lost yet.
It's the second really good qualifier from Jacques in a row. What's changed?
Well, let's, you know, he has changed his attitude of late. He's just started to sort of really, you know, very, very positive. He sees the improvements that are coming on stream now. He's very positive about what Honda have done for the engine, and he sees things working. You know, he's had 3 pretty difficult years. I think when you start to see things coming good, you rise to the occasion as well, and he most certainly has done that.
Talk about making the team better. Obviously, a key part of that is Honda, and they've really amazingly stepped up their improvement over the past, 5-6 races.
No, they have. They've done a brilliant job. I've never had any doubt that that would happen. But the latter part of this year, they've actually surpassed my expectations, and we're already well into the design of next year's engine. In fact, it runs for the first time next week, I think the week before Suzuka. So we're feeling very positive about that.
Has there been any change in the situation? Obviously, now there are only 4 Bridgestone teams. Has that affected anything?
Not particularly. We've always been the second team with Bridgestone, the other team that they go testing with, and so we enjoy a very close relationship with them. And I think now as we move to next year, we move to a more competitive car, whole environment with Honda a lot closer as well. I think we'll see a close relationship with Bridgestone at the same time.
I think you're now just about to celebrate your 9th month in charge of the team. Has it been harder than you expected?
It's been as hard as I expected. It was never going to be easy, both from a personal point of view, timescale, and various other things. But I'd say it's on track, and I suppose the real proof of the pudding will be when we start next season. Maybe not the first race, but sort of as we go into the first 3 or 4 races of next year, have we made the step forward that I would expect us to make during the winter? I feel very positive about that as I sit here today, though.
Do you think you can nibble at the top 3 teams next year?
Being realistic, we can on occasions, but the challenge has to be the solid team that finishes 4th in the championship next year, and as a result, to do that, there will be occasions when we sort of hopefully appear on the podium and exceed our potential.
So you're aiming for 4th then?
I never say, it sounds like you're doing it down when you say aiming for 4th. No, we are aiming to be a successful Formula One team in a proper sequence of steps, and that's going to take us 3 years' time to do it, at least 3, perhaps 4 years' time. And the way to get there is just set realistic objectives that everyone buys into and we deliver on.
Dave, best of luck. Thank you very much.
So BAR, one of the few teams to do well yesterday. In fact, most of them looked out of sorts, with the exception of one. Go on, take a wild guess.
Qualifying for
the session. What did they all make of it?
Is it a very difficult circuit to get all 3 sectors perfect?
As you have seen today, yes. I think it was mainly a wind issue because in my first flying lap I had a fantastic first sector, got everything right. In all the other runs I struggled in the first sector. I couldn't just get the car floating as much, and I think the wind direction must have changed. Whereas then the second sector was a bit faster. Again, the wind can, on such a circuit where it's so slippery and you run low downforce, can make a big effect.
How much did that accident yesterday affect your ability to fight for the pole today?
Well, if I say that it's 0, I would be lying, because you know, you lose a little bit of the time on the car. You just lose time to set up yourself, and this morning was a bit of a pressure. Everyone feeling, you know, because if you see that you cannot go off track because you're trying, because otherwise you have no track time. So it affects a little bit. But at the end of the day, I think, you know, I'm happy because it's just second position, 3/10 away. It's not too bad.
I knew there was a time in the car, but a quicker time in the car. But obviously, I don't know what the other ones could do, and so it's a little bit of a surprise that Williams have struggled a bit when you've seen their qualifying performance this year. we're not going to waste too much time worrying about why they've struggled in quali. We just need to hope that we can extend and race trim and find a good pace.
You've been strong in the race, but you haven't been up that high on the other sessions. You confident?
Yeah, I'm confident because from there I can make a good start hopefully and maybe get one in front of one of the Ferraris. Not guaranteed, of course, but it's possible. And then thereafter it's a case of trying to make a good strategy, and I think it will be close, but I think we can come out in front.
I think if you look at the sectors, we had a pretty good pace and just couldn't really put it together. The car was quite difficult to drive, had quite a lot of understeer, so in a way a bit disappointing. Most disappointment was really losing third in the last minute with DC.
It seemed very hard for you. You put in a very good first lap, and then you couldn't really improve it.
No, second lap was pretty good, and I hit a curb. It really threw me off. Next lap I made a mistake, just didn't warm up the brakes enough, and the last lap was the same than the first one, but it just wasn't quick enough.
Was that as good as you could expect? The session seemed to change a bit time-wise when you went for your third run.
Yep, I mean the session, it looked like it was more and more difficult to improve the time towards the end. We simply weren't strong enough today, that's definite. I'm a bit surprised, or quite surprised from the performance that McLaren had to do in qualifying, and I think it's going to be a very tough one tomorrow.
Are you disappointed with 6 today?
Yeah, a little bit. My quickest lap I need to slow down because there was yellow flags on corner, is it 8 I think so. Was one of the main hardest there, and lost a couple of tenths. Would have been enough to put me much further in the order, but in the end this doesn't make any difference anymore, and the 6 is what we got today, and it's not disaster, but for sure a little bit disappointed.
So Kimi, disappointed, happy, sad, delirious, all in one interview. You can't really tell, can you? And you can't really tell where Ralf Schumacher was. If anybody has any idea what crypt that he was in, do let us know before the end of the programme. In the meantime, I detected that David Coulthard thinks he has something of a chance this afternoon.
Yes, I think he was kind of muted, wasn't he, about his qualifying. I thought he did very well to get third place. I would be a little bit more upbeat about it than he has been. And they're obviously finding progress with the car, but I think Michael put his finger on why the session was a bit strange. And I noticed at the start of the session, I didn't actually say anything, which was that the flags were blowing very strongly, and the crosswind on a circuit like this will affect the cars quite enormously. It does throw in a kind of random factor into qualifying. So I think a lot of people are making mistakes. The cars are slippery here on this track, and it made the session a little bit up and down. I think a lot of people came out of that session. A lot of drivers came out of that session not really sure what happened or why they were where they were on the grid.
Well, you mentioned grid. Let's maybe take a look at it. And the usual runners up the front mustn't be discounted, but we will for the time being. Anybody else there, Jeremy, that you see putting in a stormer today?
Well, we've talked about Villeneuve already. I think he is going to go well today. Raikkonen's on a flyer as well. The last few races have been good for him, and I think that we could see him pushing, and even more likely possibly than David Coulthard in many ways to get on the grid. He's really got the bit between on the podium to get his bit between his teeth. It's a fantastic sort of run he's got at the moment. The thing is about DC though, that many drivers when they would be third on the grid would be very ecstatic because they then have a chance at winning, but he knows that if the Ferraris keep going, it's going to be very hard to beat him. Normally third would be a good place to be, but that's probably about as much as he can expect. And Frentzen, 11th, good result for him. One-off drive in the Sauber before joining them full-time next year. Very disappointing there for the Toyotas down at the back. And Salo, beaten by Mark Webber in the Minardi. And Toyota and Renault both claiming they had the same sorts of problems as Jaguar with the temperature affecting the tyres. What
chance has Irvine got of repeating his podium performance from 13th on the grid?
None. Well, that's a little bit extreme. I mean, I'd say 1 in a million. Probably more like it. Obviously, it's actually less than that. But no, don't forget, his third place in Monza was due to a couple of people actually dropping out in front of him. But he qualified well, and they did look strong at Monza. So that Ford engine is good. But they haven't been lucky in qualifying. They haven't had the luck go their way in qualifying, or the performance actually. And they're going to have to do well. But, Eddie's a good driver, and he will find a way to get from where he is on the grid. He may even come in the top 6. There's an outside chance of that.
That first corner could sort them all out. There's a good chance there of a few ding-dongs.
Ding-dongs we can look forward to. Now, next year, Jenson Button will be lapping this track in a BAR. This year, he's in a Renault, and this is how he views the circuit.
Hi, I'm Jenson Button, driving for the Renault Formula 1 team. I'm going to take you around a lap of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Here we come down the main straight, start my first qualifying lap. In front is a Minardi. We normally sit quite close in qualifying to get a good tow around this circuit. Here we go, braking into turn 1 at 100 metres. Quick turn to the left, turn 2. A little bit of oversteer there on the exit. Long right-hander into turn 4, which is second gear corner. One of the quicker corners on the circuit. Then flat out through turn 5. Braking down into turn 6, which is again a second gear corner. A lot of understeer at the apex there. Come back for the second apex. Into turn 7, which is important exit for the back straight. This is where hopefully you make up the time from a tow, from sitting behind another car. Braking down into turn 9, which is again a second gear corner, into the hairpins. First gear corner is very, very tight right-hander. Quick turn into the left-hand part of it. A lot of oversteer on the exit normally. You really have to be gentle on the throttle. This is the last corner here, right-hander. A lot of understeer on the way in, use as much curb on the way out. To get as much straight line speed around this high speed corner, the only bank corner of the whole year. Gaining on the Minardi, hopefully it's going to be a good lap. That's it, end of the lap.
Okay, it's now or never. If you want to own a real Formula 1 car, then listen up, because after
back 2 weeks to Monza, we're seeing speeds up around 220 and in excess of that as the cars came out of the parabolic corner, then all the way down pit straight before they braked into the chicane at turns 1 and 2. The difference is that here, the nature of the racetrack, it's really a balance, a trade-off between downforce and straight line speed. And one of the interesting aspects of this morning's warm-up was that the 2 Ferraris were 18th and I think 19th slowest, or whatever you want to call them, quickest in terms of straight line speed. Now, Ferrari is not short of horsepower. It is probably the best aerodynamics in the pit lane, but they were just doing a variety of changes to the car to see how speed versus lap time would equate. They got the quickest times in the morning warm-up, so they've clearly got the greatest variation of choice. Now, whether they go for that kind of setup for the race, well, we'll not know much about that until we start seeing the top speeds coming in once the race is underway. But it just gives you an indication of the amount of flexibility Ferrari have had really all year, that they can afford to sacrifice maybe as many as 16 to 18 kilometers per hour to their competitors, yet still lap quicker in an overall lap.
Well, there is Heinz-Harald Frentzen preparing to start in a Sauber for the first time since the end of 1996. And of course, he then moved on to race for Williams. But back with a team that he knows well. A lot of personnel have changed in the meantime. The team has changed in many ways, but he's qualified just outside the top 10 and looking to try and maintain Sauber's position in the Constructors' Championship. Remember, they're currently in 5th place. They're some 9 points behind Renault, but more crucially, they're 3 points ahead of Jaguar, 4 points ahead of Jordan, and 5 points ahead of BAR Honda. Villeneuve, though, a major threat today. Starts 7th, could end up with some points.
Yes, and just referring to the Sauber team, everybody now would realise, of course, that Felipe Massa was dropped by the team for this race, and that enabled the team to carefully sidestep the 10-position penalty that Massa incurred in the Italian Grand Prix when it...
You've got to hand it to the Americans. They really know how to dress up an event. We've had marching girls, we've had hymns, we've had songs. It's just fantastic. Big change to the pit lane. They've moved the pit lane entry 19 metres further forwards. No real explanation as to why that should be, but I would guess it's to try to encourage some of the teams to start looking at two-stop strategies to make that pit stop time a little bit shorter. Talking to most of the teams, tyre wear is surprisingly high here, so we might see more teams going for a two-stop strategy than we originally thought. On the computer, 2 stops is quicker over the race distance by 5 seconds, but of course you can easily lose that 5 seconds if you're trapped in traffic or you have a problem. So I think we're going to see quite a lot of teams here perhaps splitting their options between their 2 cars. The money at the moment is that both Ferraris are going to be on light fuel and probably both Williams on heavy fuel.
Thank you, Peter. Now, a little more about the atmosphere, the dancing girls, the whatever. I mean, just tell us exactly what we're missing.
Well, you've missed some fantastic choreography, I suppose is the word. They had a massive stars and stripes here with girls sticking their heads up through the middle of it, which was wonderful to see, and a great choir. They're all wearing kilts, which I'm not quite sure if they're all David Coulthard fans or whether that is significant of some division of a Scottish enclave here in Indianapolis. But it was great to see. And Giorgio, if we can turn around, we've got our famous Juan Pablo Montoya Colombian fans over there. Blue and red, of course, the flags of Colombia, and Juan Pablo's been getting fantastic ovation every time he comes anywhere near the car all weekend. There's lots of hooters here too. It's a bit sort of Italian soccer, I'm ashamed to say, but the Americans really are doing things in style, and the proceedings are going to be building up to a climax very, very shortly.
All right, we'll be back with you in just a couple of moments. Thank you, Peter. Now, this is a remote control, and these are the channels that you can watch simply by pressing the right button. But which button is for which channel, I hear you ask?
Press red to access the best interactive coverage of F1 available. Select 1 for the Master View, all the big names live from the studio and pit lane. 2, Super View, with commentary from John Watson and Ben Edwards. 3, Track A focuses on the battle at the front of the field, while Track B picks out the best of the action behind the leaders. 5, Data gives you live lap and sector times, plus full race position. 6, On Board, shows how it really feels to ride with the world's best. And for unprecedented behind-the-scenes access, choose 7, the pit lane. 8 gives you constantly updated highlights in case you miss any action. Plus, our comprehensive stats are available at the touch of a button. Formula One Digital Plus, it's Grand Prix coverage at its best.
Let's have our first live interview of the day, and we're joined by Jacques Villeneuve. Jacques, thanks for your time. It's a busy time, I know, but you're looking in good shape ahead of this one.
Yeah, the car was great in quali. It's more difficult for the race, but I think it will be tough for everyone. It's going to be very slippery, so it could be a fun race.
Hi Jack, Jeremy Hart here. We've been hearing about tyres, and there's a lot of wear on tyres apparently here. What do you reckon on tyre wear and pit stop strategy then here?
There is a high tyre wear, but that also means a lot of rubber is going down, so it should get better by the end of the race.
You're very close to this track, you know all about it, you've had some great wins here. How does that help on a day like today?
It's a different track. It doesn't help at all. We use the main straight and the banking, but there's no speed through it. The racetrack is all the infield, so the past experience on the oval doesn't really help.
Hi Jacques, it's Damon here. Would you prefer to be driving than doing this interview with us?
Well, if I was driving now, that's probably because I wouldn't be in the F1 race, so no.
Well, I know you'd rather be driving than doing this interview, so I'll let you go.
Jack, thanks very much. Nicely done, Damon. You know him pretty well. From working out this season, he started off this season not in the best of, I don't know, form with his team. It's fairly clear that David Richards would be quite happy to get shot, certainly of his salary, if not of the driver. How do you think things stand now?
Let's get this one thing absolutely clear. I think that the only gripe that Dave Richards has is the amount of money that the team has to pay him. There's no question that he's a star in Formula One. As a driver, he gives everything, and he's a world champion. He's proven everything he needs to prove, and any team would want to keep him if they could. But you know, if he doesn't want to drive for less money, then what can you do?
Not a great deal. Let's hear from Heinz-Harald Frentzen, one of the elder statesmen on the grid today.
Heinz-Harald Frentzen, you've had a few races off, not of your own choosing. I bet you're looking forward to this.
Oh, of course. It's good to be working, and I'm looking forward for this event, really.
But you've got 73 laps in a car that doesn't really fit. Does that daunt you slightly?
Is that 73 laps? Jesus, it's going to be a tough race then.
Realistic though, you've had obviously the whole weekend in the car. How do you think you're going to do? Do you think you can make it out to the points?
We're trying very hard. I mean, we have a lot of competition here, and I think we will have a very exciting midfield. The times there, the cars are very similar in speed. Could see some exciting racing and overtaking.
Thanks, Heinz. Best luck.
Heinz-Harald Frentzen totally wound up ahead of the race, or maybe not. Now, the first World Championship Grand Prix in the States in 1959 saw Bruce McLaren become the youngest ever winner. Now, of the teams at Indianapolis, it's the team that's named after him that's had more US victories than any other. How they'd love to extend that record today. and the pit lane is now open.
Frentzen here, you just got a little bit of snippet there of his wry sense of humour, having spent a season with Heinz Harald, maybe more than that. Anyway, but he was such a laugh. Honestly, he's so funny, and he comes out with these really dry remarks, which can be good entertainment. And it's one of the nicest chaps I've ever been teammates with, actually.
He's a good lad, isn't he? I was lucky enough to go around this track with him in a road car a couple of years ago, and it's quite interesting. Even it was a fairly quick road car as well, and you just get this sense of frustration when you're going around all the twisty bits on the infield, then suddenly you just let it go and you go up onto the banking, round for that very quick 3/4 mile straight, and then back again. The frustration, slow, and then out again. It's very sort of stop-start, but they've done it well. And you were talking about the wind earlier on. Because you're surrounded by these grandstands that go all the way down, way beyond where the Grand Prix track is, to where the rest of the Indy 500 track is, it does swirl around. Once the wind gets in there, there's no telling where it'll go.
I imagine that must be quite interesting when they're actually doing the Indy 500 itself at 240 mile an hour around the banking, trying to guess which way the wind's going to blow on the next lap.
Well, a lot of the wind is down in the centre. I mean, when you're up on the banking underneath the lip, and in many ways you're actually protected from the wind there. But when you're down in the centre, where the F1 track goes down through the golf course, which they also have, shows how big it is. That's where it gets windy.
Now, there's been a lot of talk of late about the need to get an American driver into Formula One. Bruce Jones has caught up with a great ex-American driver, Phil Hill.
Phil Hill, world champion in 1961. How do you feel when you come to the third American Grand Prix held here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway?
Well, I'm surprised and sort of delighted that it's still pulling in a fairly good crowd. When you think that the season has been sewn up now for a while, I'm surprised, and it's really fun to see that the following is still here, and have to continue under those circumstances, I would say.
Now, what chance we're going to see an American driver coming into Formula One in the near future? There seems to be one driver scholarship scheme. Your own son Derek's on the way up.
I think that it's absolutely a must that we have an American driver in Grand Prix in Formula One, and with Red Bull having done what they've done for the very young drivers and all, I think that anything along those lines is a positive.
Now, what chance an American team? There's been a story that seems to have surfaced this weekend that perhaps you're involved in one with Dan Gurney, or is that so far ahead of the case at the moment?
It's sort of ahead of the case. In fact, I hadn't heard a word about any of it until, 20 minutes ahead of when the story broke. So it's way premature on anything that, well, I can't even use the word premature. It's whether it amounts to anything is, I just don't have anything to do with it at this moment.
Okay, Phil.
Other than I intend to give Dan every bit of good wish and support that I can,
Thanks very much for talking to us, Phil.
Phil may not know too much about it. Dan Gurney apparently has been working for over 2 years on it, and is confident, he says, of getting the team into the programme next season.
It's very interesting. Dan Gurney, of course, having very close links with Toyota. Toyota already have done their thing, so he had a Formula One team, Eagle Racing in Formula One, way back with Honda engines, way back in the 60s. And, but of course, these guys raced Phil Hill and Dan Gurney raced in the 60s, and they've been a long time away from Formula One, and it's I just hope they're still up to speed with what's going on and the pace of Formula One. It's quite a different sport, I think, in many ways than it was when they were involved.
And quite an interesting point is that Toyota eventually want to supply other teams with their engines, so maybe that's a logical progression if they already have that relationship with Dan Gurney. Yeah. And also, these two guys, Phil Hill seemed incredibly ill-informed considering his name's been put to this thing. They have been in discussions with Ford as well to get Cosworth engines in the back of this car. But this is a brand new thing that's come out. Far further down the line is the talk that we heard Phil talk about, which was this program to get young American race drivers into Formula One with backing from Red Bull.
I mean, it may be an attempt to actually get the backing from Red Bull for a team run by Dan Gurney. Dan Gurney's cars were called All-American Racers, and they were pretty heavily patriotic. So there may be a continuation of that, or we may see an American team, badged American team, Dan Gurney, All-American Racers, sponsored by Red Bull, cropping up. Of course, arrows are for sale, so anything can happen.
That doesn't matter so much now, though, because there are a couple of gaps in the grid, and unlike Toyota, who had to pay a fortune to come into F1, with the gaps there, that you don't actually have to fork out quite as much to pay for your way into Grand Prix or to buy out another team. It's just a great.
Jeremy, I never expected you to be naive. Journalists and everything.
No.
To get into Formula One is going to cost someone.
Oh, it's going to cost them a huge amount.
Yeah.
But what they had to, when Toyota had to buy out other teams so they could go into Formula One. But with the gap there, that'll cut down the cost quite a lot.
Yeah.
Well. Thank you, boys. Jarno Trulli in 8th place on the grid. Let's have a word with him now.
Good news there, chap. Up 8th on the grid, you're on the dusty side. How much of a problem is that going to be?
We will see. I don't really know, but it's obviously I'm a little bit concerned.
And this morning in the warm-up, did you come close to the pit wall to try and clear it?
Yes, try to clear it up, but I don't think I made a very good job anyway, because it's very dirty.
Now, it's very hot this afternoon. This morning was very cold. How easy was it to try and develop your car for the race in totally different conditions?
I feel that this condition will help us, as we always struggle to get the tires in temperature, so it'll probably be better for us.
Good, let's hope so. Thanks, Jarno.
Thanks, Jarno, indeed. Let's go live to Peter Windsor now, who's with Ralf Schumacher.
Ralf, nice to see you early on the grid here. None of the repeat problems you had at Monza.
Yeah, I mean, luckily the car seems to be all right. I can only tell after the race, but so far everything looks fine, yeah.
How was the warm-up this morning? You didn't do many laps. Was that to save the engine?
Yeah, it's always looking after the whole package, I must say. And, you know, it's very cool in the mornings, and our tyre especially doesn't work that well, so that's why we don't bother to do too many laps.
Great atmosphere here, isn't it, with the crowd here? Sorry about all the Colombians here, but apart from that, it's great, isn't it?
No, I mean, even the Colombians, it's great for Juan. I mean, he was racing and you'd expect it, and I think it's a great atmosphere, yeah.
Well, very best of luck to you. Thank you.
Naive to say that the enmity that was apparent between Ralf Schumacher and Juan earlier in the season has abated somewhat.
Yeah, it definitely seems that way. I mean, Ralf was prone to the occasional tantrum, and he seems to have grown up a hell of a lot, I think, over the last few seasons, and he's certainly shown he's not going to be overlooked in the Williams team, and he's been playing his part. But there's still a feeling that Juan Pablo has captured the hearts of Patrick Head and Frank Williams there in the Williams team, and not quite so much Ralf. But nevertheless, Ralf has got, I believe, considerable support from BMW, being a German driver.
All right, the time has come for one of the highlights of our coverage. That's Peter Windsor and his legendary grid walk. Peter?
Thanks very much. I'm actually just walking behind Patrick Head. Patrick, if we can have a very quick word. Everything okay with Juan Pablo's car onto the grid?
Yeah, he's quite happy. I mean, obviously there's very different track temperature now than there was in the morning warm-up this morning. And these cars are really low-flying aircraft, so they're very, very finely balanced in the corners, and tiny, tiny changes make a big difference.
Michael always seems to go into the garage a lot in this period. He's still there at the moment, I think. Your two guys tend to come onto the grid fairly soon. Any reason for that?
Basically, the pit lane is open for 15 minutes, and he's making best use of that, as he feels, in terms of he probably wants to go out and do his last lap as close to the start of the race as possible and make his final decisions as close. But, yeah, different way of doing it.
If you were running the Ferrari team, would you have your two cars on one-stop or two-stop strategy here?
I think probably about 4 or 5 stops, I think.
Thanks very much, Patrick.
Okay.
All right, let's walk a little bit further down towards, actually towards Jacques Villeneuve. Great to see him so far up the grid. But remember, Jacques told us yesterday that his was a little bit of a one-lap wonder, and we've got to have a question mark about his performance over a race distance. Much stronger, I believe, will be Jordan Honda, but we'll see there. I think we will see, as we said before, a lot of mixtures of strategy here. 2-stop, 1-stop, light fuel, heavy fuel, particularly with that pit lane being shortened. And now, Giorgio, if we can just go round, we might be able to find Jarno Trulli. Yeah, Jarno's over there. He's always a easy guy to talk to. Jarno, if we can have a very quick word with you. You're looking pretty calm and relaxed. Everything okay with the car?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident, especially because it's sunny and warm, as I told you yesterday. So I think our tires should work very well in this condition.
What do you think about the Michelin teams that seem to run into trouble when it got hotter?
Well, it's not our case, so they must have got something wrong in terms of setup.
Not enough downforce, perhaps?
Well, we are running very low downforce, but it seems working, so I don't know.
What happened at the start of the Italian Grand Prix? I don't really want to remind you of that, but let's hope there's no recurrence of it, obviously.
Well, basically, when I tried to engage the first gear didn't come in, and didn't want to come in. I tried several times, and eventually, when everybody left, it disengaged, but it was too late, so I had to start from the back of the grid.
Jensen had a little bit of a problem this morning with his launch strategy. What was that all about?
Very similar problem to my one, and but we won't have this problem in the race anymore.
Okay, very best of luck, thank you. Right, if we can step round. Michael's just going past us now, cruising up, scattering all the Ferrari mechanics as he does so. Flavio, pretty impressive here at Indianapolis, eh? It's a great atmosphere.
It's fantastic, you know, and you see the people. It's amazing. It's very impressive. Respect the circuit in Europe. This, you see, America is big. Everything is big. Look the crowd. It's amazing.
It's absolutely fantastic, and a cloudless blue sky. The weather couldn't be better.
Yeah, and you know, we're talking about Formula One and crisis, but look like it's not completely in crisis. Look like still very good show, and the people enjoy it.
Your car's put on a good show towards the end of qualifying. Qualified quite well up the grid here. How's it going to go?
Yeah, it depends, you know, depends. This is a lot of people doing two-pit stop. It's the mix today. We need some luck at finishing the race.
How many pit stops are you going to do?
Maybe one.
Or maybe two.
Or maybe two.
Grazie. Okay, let's walk back up the grid a little bit. We have to clear the way, actually, for Kimi Räikkönen just pulling up. Kimi never talks. He never likes to talk, which is fine. Mika Häkkinen never used to do that either. But I always love watching Kimi because he's so cool and relaxed and calm, even when there's a crisis going on. I don't think there's any of that at McLaren at the moment, judging by the body language of the boys. Everything seems to be more or less under control. But this is always a good moment to try to find Ron Dennis if he's around. He's probably up near DC. So here's Enrique Scalabroni of Asiatech. Enrique, how's it going?
Okay, well, this is a difficult race. We need to see the life of the engine because this is a 21 second completely flat, and it's a good experience to see how the engine was developed during the year.
What revs are you doing in sixth here? I say six because you only have a 6-speed gearbox, I think, right?
17. Still we
17,000.
17,000. Yeah.
Well, very best of luck. How many engines have you blown up this year?
Only one, and in Monza we had only one electronic problem, but only one engine going in Austria for Jung.
Oh, well, let's hope there are no more today. All the best. Gary, can we have a quick word? Gary Anderson just walking past, walking forcefully up towards the Williams there. What were you about to go and do?
I just have a look really what wing levels people are running if possible, just to see where we are. If anything's changed, anything too dramatic. I mean, it's a place where you can pass here, so you want to make sure you're not caught out with too much wing in the car.
Williams seemed to take off their third element this morning. I haven't actually checked this time, but most people obviously seem to be running less downforce in the race.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite normal. I mean, the tyres go away quite quickly, so the infield section you can't really pass. It's just this straight and the other back straight that you need to be good at the end of it. It's slow corners onto it, so they don't really affect it. This fast corner here isn't really a corner for us, so it's about braking better down the end of the straight.
A lot of people seem to be talking about 1- and 2-stop strategies here. Could be a very, very interesting race.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, the tyre wear is very high, so I think anybody going for 1 stop will have to be very careful come the end of their stint because it's a small window, like 35, 36 laps, so I don't think there's room to abuse it and go to like lap 40 or anything silly. But the tyre wear is pretty high, so I'm not quite sure about Michelin's, but I know for the Bridgestone guys it's pretty high.
So how much money will you give me on the silky smooth Giancarlo going on 1 stop and the slightly more aggressive Taco on 2 stops?
Well, you never know, do you?
Thanks very much, Gary. Right, George, if we keep walking a little bit further down the grid here, see if we can find Ron Dennis I always like to get Ron's input on what he thinks Ferrari and McLaren are going to do. He's never short of an... Well, here's Nicky Lauda. Let's ask Nicky. Nicky, what do you think about the back end of the McLaren here, then?
Looks good, especially how they tape up their bodywork, which is good for the aerodynamics.
Yeah, and they're probably also taping up their fuel fillers, which kept flipping open in the Belgian Grand Prix over the curbs.
No, well, that's easy to fix, so that's not a problem, really.
How are the aerodynamics on your car, speaking of aerodynamics?
No, for this circuit, pretty good. But, I mean, we can't get the rear tires to work in the way they should. With this high temperature, it's going to be difficult today.
It's extraordinary, that, isn't it? Because both McLaren and Williams seem to perform better and better the hotter it got.
The McLaren is well balanced. The Williams is not as quick as it should be here, so they are suffering a similar problem. But just you need to keep the balance. That's the main thing here in the race, so let's wait and see.
Are you going to run as little wing as possible in order to try to take advantage of the Cosworth power and pass cars on the straight?
Sure, you need enough speed here to pass, otherwise you can't go any forward. But it's going to be a difficult race.
Let me ask you the same question. If you were Jean Todt, would you run 2 or 1-stop strategy if you were running the Ferraris?
I will run one car like this, the other like this, then it's really safe. And
thanks, Nicky.
They can afford it.
Thanks, Nicky. Now we must wait for the national anthem, big occasion in the United States.
Well, they certainly know how to put on a show, and Peter Windsor certainly knows how to ask questions that are never going to get answered. Pit stop strategy is not something too many people are willing to disclose.
Well, he did. There was one question about kilts, and I think I found the answer. They were the schoolgirls. Peter, can you hear me? Never mind.
Don't go there.
This
Don't
will not
go anywhere
This
near
will not affect our race.
Right, thank you. And from schoolgirls to Nick Damon, who's talking to Giancarlo Fisichella.
Giancarlo Fisichella, an increase in temperature, but these days it's not such a problem for Bridgestone, is it?
Well, it's not particularly good for the tires, but it's a big degradation for Michelin and for Bridgestone. On Friday it was okay. This morning too wasn't too bad, so I'm quite confident, and I hope to get to the end and score some points.
How much of an advantage is it to be on this clean side of the track?
How much?
How much of an advantage is it to be on this side of the track?
A small advantage, but usually our launch control doesn't work very well. But honestly, here there is the new system, which is much better. So at least I hope to keep my position.
Thanks, Giancarlo.
It's already Ken for Mark Webber and the Minardi, because he's moved up from his customary second last place to third last, taking advantage of Salo's poor weekend so far. Here he is talking once again to Nick.
Mark Webber, seems like ages ago I spoke to you on the banking just back there. I mean, how have you enjoyed the Indy experience?
It's been good, yeah. You know, to be full throttle for so long is something which is watch your back. Full throttle for so long is a different experience, you know. We're flat from sort of turn 11, you know, all the way around. So it's interesting to be flat that long. And then the infield section, you know, in terms of wing level, what you want to run, just have a look around. Everyone's doing something pretty similar, running pretty light for top speed. So, yeah, it's a good track.
Realistically, where do you expect to finish today?
I think we can race some of these guys. Depends on, we're going to go as long as we can. We've filled the thing up, so whatever, 42, something like that, lap. Wherever these guys stop, you know, we'll see. But it's difficult to finish ahead of people, you know. This part of the track's not one that we're doing much damage, so it'd be nice to finish in the top 10, but there's going to be similar time and see if we can do that.
And is your ankle feeling better?
Yeah, ankle's feeling better, so yeah, it's all right in the car.
Oh, best of luck, thanks.
Talking of questions that don't get answered, we were busy asking Mark Webber where he's going next season a couple of days ago, and he was asking us.
Well, that's reassuring, isn't it? You're going to Jaguar, Mark.
I suspect
you heard it here first.
OK, let's cross live to the grid now and join David Coulthard. Thanks for your time, David. Great performance in qualifying, but my friend Damon Hill says you looked underwhelmed by it all.
Well, obviously, I want to be higher, and third is obviously a good qualifying for where we are this season. But that's only Saturday. We all know where the points come, and that's today. So ultimately, this will be the point at which I get excited or not.
David, the point I was making was that you know, really no one could expect to beat the Ferraris at all at the moment. Or do you really feel you've got a good chance here?
To be honest, I think they're still in a league of their own. I think we will see a race between those two cars because of the championship being more close for them. But really, it's a race for third place, so I'm going to focus on that.
Right, we're going to let you go, David. We're looking forward to a good race from you, and see you afterwards.
See you then, thanks.
OK, let's move ahead of David Coulthard. One ahead, in fact, Rubens Barrichello.
Rubens, we were just talking to your old boss, and he was saying he was surprised how much you've improved, actually. He wished he'd driven like that when he was with Jackie.
Well, to be honest with you, I think...
I'm only joking.
Yeah, but we improve as a person, we improve as human beings and as a driver. I guess I'm quicker over a race run than I was sometime when I drove for Stewart. So it's just the thing that it comes with the time. I mean, I'm no quicker over a lap than I was some time ago. So the thing is that I'm having good fun, and Jackie is part of it. He made me into a good man.
Talk a little bit about the atmosphere here today.
It's great. I mean, you saw the Brazilian flag is probably, I don't know, it's really big. So it's a lot of Americans and Brazilian fans here. I mean, the Colombians are also are good friends, and so we have a good afternoon.
Well, I hope you have a very good afternoon. Thank you.
Well, from second on the grid to second last, Mika Salo talking now to Nick.
Mika Salo, you're a long way back, but in the warm-up you were near the front again, but was that just because it was cooler?
Yeah, no, car was really bad yesterday in qualifying. We made some big mistakes in the qualifying. Also, on top of everything, I had a misfire also. So times are so close here. You need everything, and I ended up back here. But in the warm-up, everything worked fine again, and it looks like we will have a good race.
So you're confident being able to overtake a few people at least?
It should be okay. We were very slow all weekend on a straight line, but now for warm-up we found the speed again. So I'm hopeful. Everything looks good.
Best of luck. Thank you.
Well, Peter Windsor was looking for Ron Dennis earlier on. Bruce Jones has found him.
This lovely hot day at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, is this what you wish for David in third position?
Yeah, I think first of all it's good for us, good for our tyres. It's great for the audience, and hard to believe that there's too many problems in Grand Prix racing when you see such a huge and enthusiastic crowd.
Now, Ferrari's still holding the front row, down the front row of the grid. Can David do anything about them today?
It's not easy, but we'll do our best.
We'll see. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Ron's smiling.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. They'll do their best. I think they've done their best actually at the moment, qualifying third, and they need that quantum leap. We're looking forward to next year's McLaren. I know they said that they weren't going to come up with a completely new car, but if they get this gearbox modification that we think they're going to get from the guy that they got from Ferrari, then they could be in really good shape to fight Ferrari next year.
Nick Heidfeld has made it into the top 10, and he's beaten his new teammate, Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Here is Nick with Nick.
Nick Hart, there's an amazing atmosphere, amazing crowd here. Can you feel that in the car?
In the car it's difficult to feel, but you feel it now and here. You felt it all the time in practice. It seems like the fans here are a lot more noisy than in Europe.
Now, going back to the car yourself, you achieved the first thing. You've managed to out-qualify Heinz-Harald. How are you looking towards the race? Do you think you can get those 2 or 3 places you need for points?
I hope that I can overtake a couple of cars, but then, as usual, we need a bit of luck. But 10th position, I think, for us is a good position to hope for points.
Best of luck. Thank you, Nick.
Well, one place ahead of Nick Heidfeld is Giancarlo Fisichella in the Jordan. Let's hear from Mr. Jordan now, talking to Nick.
Eddie Jordan, we've been looking around for you all weekend, but you've not been in the pit wall much. What have you been doing?
I only caught some of that with these noisy engines here, but I must say my attention now and again happened to catch the corner of a camera of his TV screen with the Ryder Cup, which was obviously very exciting.
There's been a lot of talk, obviously, about the Ford deal now being official. Has it come out from Ford as you wished it to be? It seems to be some worry now about how it's going to be financed, I've heard.
No, that's absolutely news to me. We've just had a long, detailed discussion with Sir Nick Taylor, who is the president of Ford, and he is so excited about the idea of the Ford Oval being with Jordan, because what it creates is a different kind of a marketing approach. It's a more, perhaps, youthful, a more vibrant understanding of how we're trying to progress. It's a difficult market out there for everyone, particularly in the auto industry and indeed in motorsport. So there is a joint commitment to, at the highest possible level, to make sure we take full value out of this.
Well, there isn't that much of a problem here. If all the crowds like this one, there'd be no problems at all, there, would there?
Well, I mean, we're all talking ourselves down in many respects, but there are 200,000 people here who paid in quite a respectable amount of money to see this event, and I think there's a great future for racing here in North America. We already have a very successful race in Canada, and now this is the 3rd race here at Indianapolis, and I just hope it can continue for a very long time.
How's it doing? Thanks a lot.
Both Jordan and BAR using Honda engines, of course, but BAR have won the battle in qualifying. Let's have a quick word now then with the BAR team boss, David Richards.
David, great day for the team yesterday in qualifying, certainly, Jacques, and then Olivier straight up in warm-up. You've really got to think points today, haven't you?
Yeah, it's, you know, anything's possible here. I think it's getting hotter and hotter. I guess a lot's going to be down to how the tyres stand up on not just our car, but everybody else's.
Do you think we're going to see more of a mix than usual? Because it's been a traditional one-stopper, but do you think with these temperature changes and the softer tyres, we're going to see people trying things?
I think you'd see a lot of different strategies here this weekend. You only had to see the warm-up times and the amount of wing people were running this morning. So now you could see 1, you could see 3 stoppers even. Big surprises.
Hope so, Dave. Thanks a lot.
3-stopper, okay, Jeremy.
You heard it here, didn't you?
Pick your team.
Minardi, they're going to go for a 3-stopper. But not because they plan to. No, there's no point going to 3 stops, I wouldn't have thought this afternoon, although tyre degradation is one of the big key things today, and all the drivers have been talking about it to one level or another, especially Jacques Villeneuve. He was talking about it yesterday and he's been talking about it again today.
De La Rosa has a contract for next year, but as we know, that doesn't always mean that you end up in the driving seat.
Another name that came into the Jaguar frame over the weekend is that of Helio Castroneves. Now, we mentioned him in conjunction with a test last week in Paul Ricard with Toyota, and the reason his name has come into the frame is because of the ownership of Jaguar, of course, owned by Ford Motor Company. That from a marketing perspective, Helio Castroneves' name in the US as a double back-to-back Indy 500 winner is substantial, and from marketing points of view could be of a valuable or a great deal of use to the team. He's not a bad racer either, is he?
No, he's a pretty good racer. So Helio Castroneves, fellow Brazilian to Rubens Barrichello, and we'll have to wait to see whether he gets an opportunity. But for the moment, let's focus on what's going to happen here at Indy this afternoon. But every time that Montoya's car is featured, or he is featured on the big screens around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the crowd goes mad. You get a huge cheer coming up as they avidly watch for any sign of their man. And it is Montoya starting in 4th place. Looks like we've got scrub tyres on the Ferrari for a change. And in fact, Ross Brawn did say to us yesterday that they'd been scrubbing some tyres. Gerhard Berger keeps a close eye on proceedings as we prepare for the start now of the formation lap. David Coulthard, 3rd place on the grid for him. Montoya in 4th position.
Just watching Michael Schumacher's eyes, contemplative as he waits for that sequence of lights to go out. And there's a very private moment with the racing driver, just being able to see into his helmet, the visor up. There they are, the lights go green. So now, not so much about launch controllers laying lots and lots of rubber to make sure that you start on black lines rather than on black tarmac.
Well, hopefully everybody getting away safely. All 20 cars have made it away from the grid on the start of this formation lap. Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello now leading them around this 2.6-mile course for the last time before we get the race underway. The United States Grand Prix is all set to run in absolutely beautiful weather conditions. It's a perfect day, and the teams now really have to sit back and wait and watch. Their work is done. It's now down to the drivers.
Yes, and the drivers make their way around. This is coming out of turn 7, and ultimately when their cars come back onto the grid, there'll be a moment of extreme stress and pressure as the cars then will take the lights and then go down into turn 1. It's a tricky turn, although it's wide into it. It gets very narrow at the apex, and let's hope we don't have what we have seen sometimes throughout this year, contact. Certainly back in Monza 2 weeks ago, David Coulthard came into contact with his own teammate in turn 1. Well, let's hope we get all 20 cars through turns 1 and 2 cleanly, and this race gets underway without any delay.
Michael Schumacher leading them round, already slowing the pace down a little bit to bring the cars gradually around to the grid and their standing start. It's his 6th pole of the season, and of course he is unbeaten in qualifying here at Indianapolis in the 3 years of competition.
And Michael deliberately slowing the field down to ensure that everybody is bunched together. The last thing that a driver on pole position wants to do is to get to that position, then wait for the rest of the field to bunch up. These cars run very high temperatures. They don't like standing stationary for very long indeed. So Michael slows the cars down as they come to turn 13. That's turn 1 on the Indy circuit run in its 500-mile configuration. The rest of the field closing back up. And now this moment where Schumacher makes his way up to the pole position.
Taking it very steady. Norbert Haug of Mercedes-Benz hoping that David Coulthard can do something special from 3rd place. So remember, Coulthard is a racer. He loves nothing better than the start of a Grand Prix and the attack into the first corner. Watch him from 3rd, the more grippy side of the circuit, because that's the side the cars tend to run in during free practice, during the qualifying sessions as well. The other cars now making their way, all 20 cars just slowly making their way through turn 13, which is of course normally turn 1 on the 2.5-mile oval track. We're waiting now for the last few cars to move into place, and Michael Schumacher will get the signal from the team as well. He'll be told that the last car has moved into place, and we are now all set for the United States Grand Prix to get underway. Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello trying to defend from the front row of the grid. And who will it be? Away well, Michael Schumacher from pole position. David Coulthard going with him on the outside. Barrichello with Coulthard. Schumacher shutting the door. He's got a good, clean start. Montoya has not made a good start. Ralf Schumacher comes up into 4th place, locks a brake, as going a little bit wide. 1 or 2 cars, one of the Saubers there, but I think everybody making it through safely.
Yes, the 2 Jaguars getting very close. Irvine losing out. He's on the outside of turn 2. He got cramped in. There he is going again round the long way, but Michael Schumacher, Barrichello just pulling away. David Coulthard 3rd, Ralf Schumacher 4th, and Jarno Trulli, great start up into 6th place.
So Ralf Schumacher definitely away better than his teammate Juan Pablo Montoya. Battle going on at the back of the field. This is Salo and Panis. Salo in the Toyota, getting past Olivier Panis in the BAR Honda, and Salo with plenty of work to do, having qualified so far down.
Jarno Trulli dives down the inside, no chance to pass into turn 8, nevertheless puts his car in that zone, but he's competitive. He's in 6th place. He's made up 2 positions at the start.
Yes, Trulli running behind the 2 Williams. Then it's Raikkonen down in 7th, Villeneuve down in 8th place, Heidfeld in the Sauber is 9th, and then Fisichella in 10th place in the Jordan. So a good start also from Alan McNish in the Toyota. He's got up to 14th position as the field comes through to complete the first lap, and it's the battle between the 2 Williams BMWs. Here comes Juan Pablo Montoya with the support of a massive amount of people here at Indianapolis. Is he going to get past Ralf Schumacher? He's got the outside line. Ralf defends the inside, and Montoya's wheel to wheel. Oh, they've hit each other!
Both Williams, well, that is absolutely dumb. Ralf Schumacher, Juan Pablo Montoya at the end of lap 1. Patrick Head, technical director, has gone absolutely mad, and both drivers, I would not want to be either driver. Ralf Schumacher, rear wing knocked off. We don't know whether there's damage to Juan Pablo Montoya's car or not, but that was wholly unnecessary, and really Juan Pablo Montoya, trying to come around the long way round, forced that issue, and I think most of the blame will fall to his hands.
There he is. He's still running in 5th place, but is there damage to his car? A little difficult to tell as yet, but we will watch his progress. So Michael Schumacher leads in the Ferrari ahead of his teammate Rubens Barrichello. The mood down there at Williams is a black mood indeed, having seen the two cars come together at turn 1 on only the 2nd lap. That is amazing. And of course now they are preparing for Ralf Schumacher to see whether they can get the car back out for the remainder of the Grand Prix.
Well, it looks as if Montoya may have gotten away with it. The contact clearly was from the wheel to the rear wing of Ralf Schumacher's car, but there doesn't appear to be any bodywork damage to Montoya's car. There doesn't appear to be any suspension damage from what you can see. But to change the rear wing on Ralf Schumacher's car, well, you're looking at least a lap, could be even longer depending how much damage there is to the mountings of that wing.
Well, Montoya now finding himself behind Villeneuve, of course, so he's lost out as a result of all that. He's behind Villeneuve, he's behind Raikkonen as well. It's brought Trulli up to 4th place now, so Jarno Trulli in the Renault 4th.
Great start from Michael Schumacher. Rubens Barrichello pulls over David Coulthard alongside, but just the sheer horsepower, and one wonders how much fuel both Ferraris have got on board. They were able to pull away quite cleanly. There's the lock-up into turn 1. Montoya lost out and maybe just being too greedy. Further through the field, you've got Jordans, Saubers, Jaguars all over the place. Now the Williams team worked flat out. They've got to take the wing mounting itself off and take a brand new wing, complete with mounting, and relocate it. And already the cars are coming up to complete their 2nd flying lap.
This is something they will have rehearsed, a change of rear wing. It is part and parcel of practicing the pit stops, but it's not something they would plan to do, and it takes so much time for them to get the rear wing changed. This is Ralf Schumacher's race all over and done with effectively, as his brother continues to lead with a 1-second lead. Well, David Coulthard in 3rd position, not able to live with the Ferraris at the moment. Let's look down further through the field, and a little battle here between the two Toyotas. Salo now overtaking McNish.
Yes, just sheer speed. He got a draft, but he runs wide, and Alan McNish, can he cut back again? Well, they're side by side. Two Toyotas, as you saw, the two Williams, but McNish bravely and probably wisely decides he better lift off. Ralf Schumacher now competing with new rear wing and wing mount. Leaves, but well, let's look again at this. Ralf Schumacher on the inside. Montoya, there was really no way, he just had to run down. There was the contact, wheel to wheel, spun Ralf Schumacher around, and of course the rear wheel of Montoya's car caught the wing of, there it is. Oh, and there was right rear contact, so that needs to be careful.
It did look a little bit in that picture, Callum, that picture, John, as though he actually spun into Montoya. A bit difficult to tell, we may get another view of it, but that was the reaction there of the Williams crew. An understandable one too. Let's take a look at the gap that the two Ferraris are already pulling out. It is Michael Schumacher, 1.3 seconds ahead of Barrichello, and then a further 3-second gap back to David Coulthard from McLaren Mercedes in 3rd. The Renault of Jarno Trulli 4th. Raikkonen's McLaren in 5th. Villeneuve is 6th. Montoya 7th, and behind him is Heidfeld, Fisichella in the Jordan, Frentzen in the other Sauber. Takuma Sato in a good 11th place in the 2nd Jordan. Then it's Jenson Button and Mika Salo on the move, as we saw. He's up to 13th.
Well, David Coulthard having a fairly lonely run in 3rd place. He's got a 1.8-second advantage over Jarno Trulli, who's done very well indeed. Gained out of Montoya's incident, but had a good start up to 4th place. Raikkonen in 5th. He's a further 2.3 seconds behind Trulli, and Jack Villeneuve, there you see him coming out of turn 7 in the white BAR Honda, running out the top 6.
Jack Villeneuve, yes, as you say, he's doing a good job so far. Best qualifying performance of the year for him, 7th place. But Montoya has just dropped back a fraction from him. Very difficult, of course, running in the slipstream of another car to try and find an advantage. But the two Ferraris looking very evenly matched at the moment, John. It would perhaps indicate they're on similar fuel strategies. They seem to be able to lap at a very similar performance level across the line. Michael Schumacher still with a 1.1 second gap back to his teammate.
Well, the two Ferraris pretty much lapping at the same pace. The last lap for Michael Schumacher, 1:14.7. Barrichello a 1/10 of a second faster, but they're pulling away by about half a second of that from David Coulthard, third in the McLaren Mercedes. But Jarno Trulli staying in contact with the McLaren, and Kimi Räikkönen, well, losing contact. So Jarno Trulli, really, of those three cars, is the one that is making small progress.
The battle you're watching here is between Nick Heidfeld in the Sauber. Between him and his teammate is Giancarlo Fisichella in the yellow Jordan. And this is a crucial battle as these two teams battle in the Constructors' Championship. Jordan on 7 points currently, Sauber on 11 points. And part of the reason for bringing Heinz-Harald Frentzen in to the United States Grand Prix is the opportunity to score more points. Well, currently Frentzen not able to quite run with Fisichella, and in fact he's got the other Jordan there right behind him of Japanese driver Takuma Sato, the other yellow Jordan, and right behind him is the British driver Jenson Button.
Yes, for Jenson in his penultimate race for Renault, very keen to get a good result. He got 5th place in Monza, but he would like to go out of his term with the Renault Stroke Benetton team on a high, and when he moves over to BAR and partner Jacques Villeneuve, to go in there in a positive frame of mind.
Let's watch the view from Michael Schumacher, looking back at teammate Rubens Barrichello. Ferrari engine sounding perfect at the moment as here comes the attack. Oh, Takuma Sato right down the inside of Frentzen onto the grass. Oh, he's got it too quick. Frentzen comes back, although Frentzen lost the race as well to Button.
Yes, Frentzen lost out. He actually turned away from the corner, and you see Sato, he's back at it again as you go through turns 3. So whether one will see a penalty for Sato for going on what was literally more than a dive into the unknown to try and get past Frentzen, all of which allowed Jenson Button to read the situation and take advantage and move forward by 2 places. Button is now up into in 10th place.
Yes, a very useful move that for Jenson Button in the second Renault. We saw 2 Renaults getting into the points in Monza, with both finishing in the top 6, and we'll see whether they can do similar. Now we're watching another little battle. Let's just go back. Sato down the inside.
Possibly late in the brakes. Frentzen turns in, then immediately has to turn away. Jenson Button behind, of course, was able to read all this. There's Button going through. He's gained 2 positions. Frentzen, Sato side by side. Sato's not giving up. Frentzen runs wide. Sato goes down the inside. And they continue that battle over, let's say, a bit of territory which is no more than 3 or 4 corners.
Well, it's all pretty exciting stuff. There's the odd smile down in the Jordan pit as they see their Japanese charge, trying to move up through the order. He is now 11th. Frentzen has been pushed down to 12th. And here comes Mika Salo trying to get past Heinz-Harald Frentzen. 2 very experienced drivers.
Yeah, Frentzen rattled, I think, by Sato's, let's say, somewhat optimistic move down the inside. Lost momentum. Sato retook Frentzen. Now he's got Mika Salo pressuring him. Remember, the Toyota very quick in a straight line. In fact, Sato is the quickest right now at 350 kilometers per hour, which is about 215 to 16 miles per hour.
Mika Salo entering the last couple of Grand Prix of his Formula 1 career, but he'd love to finish off in style here at Indianapolis and at Suzuka in Japan for the last Grand Prix of the year. And he's been working his way up through the order very effectively, started down in 19th and he's now in 13th place and hounding Heinz-Harald Frentzen. So after 7 laps, it's still Michael Schumacher ahead. Barrichello staying with him. It's still just around a second, the gap between the 2 Ferraris. Then we look back, and it's a 6.7 second gap back to David Coulthard. He is chased by Jarno Trulli.
And Jarno Trulli, wheel for wheel, lap for lap, matching that of David Coulthard. They're doing identical times. Juan Pablo Montoya back in 7th place after that moment with his own teammate in turn 1. And looking at those different views of turn 1 from the camera angle at turn 2, looking into turn 1, it's questionable how maybe guilty Juan Pablo Montoya was. It does appear that Ralf Schumacher, the back end of his car, got away in his attempt to defend his position over his teammate.
Well, it's certainly a big inter-team rivalry between the 2 Williams drivers. A different situation, of course, to Ferrari, where it tends to be more managed, the competition between these 2. But for the moment, Rubens Barrichello's doing a good job of staying with the world champion. The gap between the 2 of them, as I say, has remained at around a second. And around the various checkpoints on the track, it is still the same, but they are gradually easing away from David Coulthard. In fact, they're running nearly a second a lap faster than the cars behind, as we see another little battle going on.
Yes, Eddie Irvine battling with Olivier Panis, and that is a battle for 15th place. I'm sure Jaguar, look at Olivier Panis right up the gearbox, and he's under pressure from the 2 Minardis of Mark Webber and Alex Young. But I'm sure that Irvine and Jaguar are on a one-stop strategy. There's no reason to believe that the Jaguar performance has taken such a downturn that Irvine would drop all the way back down through the field to 15th. He did start 13th in fairness, but he's down to 15th as we look at the Sauber team preparing already for one of their two cars. I suspect it's Frentzen who was involved in that incident in turn 1 with Takuma Sato some 3 laps earlier.
It is too early for a scheduled stop, but obviously there is some reason to bring one of the Saubers in. Mark Webber must be enjoying himself in the poorly funded Minardi team. They have to pick up the pieces whenever they can, but he's actually got a good battle going on. He's managing to stay with the BAR Honda of Olivier Panis and the Jaguar of Eddie Irvine. And remember, Mark Webber may well end up as driver of one of the Jaguar Formula 1 cars next season. We're still waiting to hear confirmation of that.
Jarno Trulli doing a very good job, running 1 second behind David Coulthard. They've moved forward. They've moved away from that battle with Raikkonen and Villeneuve in 5th and 6th, but they just cannot keep contact with these two Ferraris as they come across the line. The lead that the Ferrari has from Michael Schumacher to David Coulthard is 9.6 seconds, and it is absolutely remorseless, the pace of the two Ferraris.
Coulthard under pressure then from Jarno Trulli, the experienced Italian, who got a great result, 4th place at Monza last time out. Here we are riding with Olivier Panis down in 16th. We're back to that battle as he chases Eddie Irvine. Ahead of them, Alan McNish in the Toyota. And we have 3 major manufacturers represented here. Toyota, Ford and Honda, all evenly matched.
Well, Panis is pretty quick down the straight. There we can see current speed's 3:39, top speed 3:46. So Olivier Panis battling with Eddie Irvine in the Jaguar. Can make up speed. The trouble that they've had in the earlier part of the season at BAR is that they get the top speed, but they do not get the top speed as early in the straight as some of the competitors.
218 miles per hour the maximum, but Michael Schumacher fastest overall. Now we're riding with Olivier Panis, and let's just see whether there's any opportunity for him to find a way of getting ahead of Eddie Irvine. It's looking tricky at the moment, you have to say. It's through here, that sort of section of corners, that you need to be quick to get a good run onto the main straight.
Well, I think Eddie just runs at the pace he needs to do to keep just ahead of the VAR, but I mean, to have the two Minardis running so closely behind you. We're on lap 12 of a 73-lap race, and it is not going to be one of those happy days, but Olivier Panis positioning himself to try and pick up the slipstream from the Jaguar as we cut back this battle a little bit further up. There's Giancarlo Fisichella now with Jenson Button pressing hard on the rear.
Yes, Jenson Button's done well there. He's caught up a fair bit of ground to the back of the Jordan Honda. So Button in the Renault has shown a good turn of pace after a little bit of a disappointing qualifying session yesterday. Said he just could not find the balance with the car. It was doing one thing, it was doing another thing. He did not feel any confidence in it, but he seems to be more confident now, and he's definitely bearing down on the Jordan ahead. There's a Jordan behind, that is Takuma Sato running 11th, and then we look in the background behind them, we've got that Frentzen-Salo battle continues, and these two veteran campaigners, if you like, at stalemate at the moment. Then back to Alan McNish, with Olivier Panis has got past Eddie Irvine.
Yes, we thought that pass was going to, so has Mark Webber. So Eddie Irvine has been passed not just by the VAR, but also by one of the Minardis. So Eddie Irvine in trouble. He probably will make a pit stop, waiting to see whether Jaguar are showing any signs of activity on the pit lane. We can't see any as yet, but Eddie Irvine, no doubt, disappointed to have lost not 1 but 2 positions. And that pass from Olivier Panis would have come at the end of the straight. He was lining up for it. Nearly got it done properly.
The two Ferraris lapping at a 1 minute 14.360 so far, and already that's faster than the fastest lap we saw last year, a 1:14.4 from Juan Pablo Montoya. Still very early stages of this race. The lap record will be shattered today, and it's likely to be shattered by one of these two, Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello. The gap back from them to David Coulthard, now some 10.6 seconds. He still has just a 1 second advantage over Jarno Trulli. Kimi Raikkonen in 5th place, so we've got both McLaren Mercedes running inside that top 6.
But Kimi Raikkonen has got to be careful, because right behind him, Jacques Villeneuve shadowing every move, less than a second behind the young Finnish driver in the McLaren. And we're just catching up on some of the news from the pit lane, and Ron Dennis was asked about the incident with the two Williams drivers, and his response was, well, Frank Williams will not be a very happy bunny.
I'm not surprised about that. There is Coulthard trying to uphold honour for Ron Dennis. A little bit of dust being kicked up now. Look at, he's got past, Villeneuve's got past Raikkonen. So Jacques Villeneuve moves up into 5th position. Kimi Raikkonen is demoted by the Canadian, the former winner of the Indy 500. And this could be a great day for Jacques Villeneuve if he can keep it going. Let's just take a look as we're riding with his teammate now, Olivier Panis. And
he had to back out of it.
Panis actually had to lift there on the main straight.
I think because the Toyota went from left to right at the point when Panis was about to do the same. So McNish countered any anticipated move by Olivier Panis, causing him to back out of it.
Olivier Panis really trying to close up that gap to McNish. It almost looked like he was going to get past on the straight there, but it didn't quite come off. Meanwhile, it is Panis' teammate, Jacques Villeneuve, who's been on the move. He's up to 5th place, ahead now of Kimi Raikkonen. But Panis frustrated in his attempts to get past the Toyota.
And it will be of interest to see how quickly Villeneuve, there we see Anthony Davidson, he's the test driver for BAR Honda. Whether Jacques Villeneuve, now he's got clear of Kimi Raikkonen, can do anything to run down the advantage Jarno Trulli in 4th place, and the Renault has. The gap, as we came across the line the last time, was 4.9 seconds. You'll keep an eye on that one.
Let's just ride with Panis for a moment. We've got a little bit of break-up on the picture. We do apologise for that, but hopefully we're getting some pretty amazing pictures anyway. As Olivier Panis now has the opportunity to get down the inside of McNish.
Yes, the speed of the BAR down the straight superior to that of Alan McNish. And McNish decides that, well, I blocked him on the previous lap. This time he clearly has got the run on me. I'm going to let him go.
Now, Montoya is catching Raikkonen. We've seen that Raikkonen was passed by Villeneuve on a couple of laps ago. Now we're looking at Montoya getting closer.
So here's the pass. Olivier Panis gets alongside Alan McNish as they come. Well, that's easy, no trouble whatsoever.
Yes, it almost makes you wonder whether...
Well, in fact, that's right, that's Jacques Villeneuve actually overtaking Kimi Raikkonen. That was a couple of laps ago. We're just getting the replay of Jacques Villeneuve making that pass on Kimi Raikkonen.
Mario Ilian, engine boss for Mercedes, will be very concerned to have seen that. Surely Raikkonen must have a problem to have been passed so easily. Look at how Villeneuve's pulled away. There is Raikkonen, and right behind him now is Montoya. Montoya has a little think about overtaking there, does not quite manage it, and so he'll probably have to sit behind the fin for another lap.
Well, it's quite an order for Juan Pablo Montoya to take out a competitor. Patrick Head, the technical director of the Williams team, said a moment ago in an interview, it is fundamentally the responsibility of each of their drivers not to come into contact or take one another off. So I'm sure when both drivers return after this Grand Prix, there will be stern
Ralph's out of it.
Technical director and team boss.
Looking back from Raikkonen. As again, we're just suffering this little problem with the breakup of the picture, so we do apologise for that. But nonetheless, fantastic conditions. Look at the cloudless sky. Let's just ride with Raikkonen a second. Just trying to listen to see if we could determine any misfire or anything there, John. It's often very difficult to actually hear a misfire when it's occurring, but Raikkonen has definitely been suffering, and now look at it, here comes Montoya.
Well, the big problem clearly for Kimi Raikkonen. There was no way that Juan Pablo Montoya would pull out and pass a McLaren Mercedes like that, so Kimi Raikkonen in some kind of problem. Juan Pablo Montoya back up now into 6th place, back into the points.
Seems to be on the straight that Raikkonen's losing the pace. Ron Dennis, I don't know whether he's on the radio to Kimi right now, but perhaps encouraging to keep at it, keep working, because they could still perhaps pick up some points despite some sort of technical problem with the McLaren Mercedes. So let's just take another look.
Yes, this again is how easy it is. We saw Villeneuve do this a few laps ago on Raikkonen, and Raikkonen swings straight back to try and pick up the slipstream from Montoya's Williams BMW, but look, even hasn't got the grunt in a straight line.
Back to the Ferraris, and a new fastest lap once again from Michael Schumacher. Every fastest lap now is a lap record, remember, a 1:13.529, but the gap has remained consistent. It's 1.4 seconds between himself and Barrichello.
And that new lap record, almost a full second under that was established last year by Juan Pablo Montoya. And believe me, Michael Schumacher is not finished yet.
We've seen some demonstration drives from Michael Schumacher this year. At the moment, it's a demonstration drive from both Ferrari drivers as their advantage over David Coulthard has opened up to a full 16 seconds.
Remember I mentioned Jacques Villeneuve, once he got clear of Kimi Raikkonen, he was then focusing in on Jarno Trulli. Well, he's got that gap. It was about 4.1, 4.2 seconds. Now it's down to less than 4 at 3.9. So very gradually, lap by lap, Villeneuve is moving up towards that battle that's going on. Actually, in fact, for third place with Coulthard and Trulli, they're covered by just over a second. With Villeneuve 3.9 seconds behind Jarno Trulli in his Renault.
Now, if you're Jenson Button and you're sandwiched by these two Jordans and you've got Japanese driver Takuma Sato right behind, you might be keeping an eye on your mirrors, because we saw the move that Sato attempted on Heinz-Harald Frentzen earlier. He is certainly last of the late breakers. He will take on any challenge. He is very brave, and Button will have to watch out to protect his line.
And really where he's going to have to watch out most is not so much through these slow corners, these are 9 and 10, but down the long straight, because Takuma Sato is the fastest car we have seen so far this afternoon. Down this long 1,822 metres straight, and that's 350 kilometres per hour, 216 mph.
Well, let's see if there's any chance. Again, we're suffering a bit of breakup on our picture. I hope that it's not causing you too many problems. As still the two Jordans sandwiching the Renault of Jenson Button. So the battle continues further behind as well. Alan McNish, Mark Webber and Eddie Irvine. Irvine was passed by Webber, but he's still running. I wondered if he had a problem, but he's now getting a little closer to the back of the Minardi, and here comes Irvine to pass the Minardi of Mark Webber into turn 1.
Yes, Eddie Irvine picked up the slipstream as he came along the straight. I mean, clearly the horsepower that Irvine and his Jaguar engine has, but Mark Webber wasn't about to give it up easily. Irvine got a little out of shape in turn 1 before he went into turn 2. Mark Webber straight on his case, tries to come back, but Irvine consolidates and begins to pull away.
Another new lap record for Rubens Barrichello it is this time. Barrichello's gone slightly faster than Michael Schumacher on this last lap, and therefore the Ferraris continuing to pull away at a second a lap. They are a second a lap faster than anyone else. It's a fairly astonishing performance once again. Eddie Irvine still trying to protect that position that he's just earned from Mark Webber. This is the battle for 16th position, and we're riding now with Takuma Sato.
He's, in my view, a little bit too far behind to be able to do anything with Jenson Button as they come down the straight. But the speed, look at, you can see, gradually closes up to the rear of the Renault. Then the brakes come on at 100 metres, and both cars plunge into turn 1, and then quickly change direction left out of turn 2.
Just ride with him. A little bit of break-up, still causing problems with the sound and picture, so do apologise for that.
Taku's lap 26, and it will be 51 kilos or 52 kilos, something like that. I'll let you in a minute or two.
And there we are, that's Gary Anderson telling us when we will see Sato come into the pits, and that would indicate a two-stop strategy. Barrichello stopped on lap 27 last year to make his first of 2 stops.
Yes, and very generous of the Jordan team to let us know that that they are going to make a pit stop. So we watch Takuma Sato. Is he going to peel off this lap? No, I think he's going to continue around. So Jordan preparing for a stop for Takuma Sato, and ordinarily that's information that wouldn't be transmitted over the open airwaves. Maybe Gary Anderson forgot to push the button. That would of course scramble the information that we were receiving here.
So Barrichello, very quick last time around, but then Michael Schumacher establishing a faster time once again. As these two head off into the distance at the moment, it's still a good rivalry between them, and hard to call. Eddie Irvine once again coming forward. This is Pedro De La Rosa now coming past Alex Young, and Ralf Schumacher still sitting behind. Well, this battle right at the back, of course, now they're being lapped by Michael Schumacher. This will maybe provide an opportunity for him to open up a bit more of an advantage. He's got to be careful there. Chopped off a little bit by Alex Young.
Yes, Young, I think, involved in a battle probably for the first time in his Grand Prix career, and he's got to be very, very careful indeed not to trip over the race leader, Michael Schumacher. As you see, Ralf Schumacher also, who spent time in the pits having his rear wing changed, he knows how to get out of the way. Alex Young, probably so excited, thinks this is wonderful. I want to be a Grand Prix driver next year as well.
Well, he may not have much chance to do that. Schumacher picks them off one by one, and Barrichello maybe just losing out a touch as they cut their way through the slower cars. Ralf Schumacher, remember, had to have that rear wing change right at the start of the race. Into the pits comes Frenchman Olivier Panis in the BAR Honda. Now, this is a two-stop strategy, obviously, for Olivier Panis, and he's quickly on his way again, 8.4 seconds.
Good stop, waved, blue flags, that's for Rubens Barrichello. He's coming past Pedro de la Rosa as they come down into turn one. No problem for Barrichello, picks up a little bit of a slipstream, gets past, and we're back to this battle that's taking place, 17th and 18th place, Pedro de la Rosa and Alex Young.
So the Ferraris still don't show any sign of coming into the pits as yet, so further they go, the more likely it is that they are on a single stop strategy, to be even more worrying for the opposition. But Olivier Panis is back out. The two stops did work well for him last time to earn 6th place at Monza, but he's not really looking like getting into the points as yet. So far we've seen some pretty good reliability from all of the top teams, and battles continuing. Now they've caught up to this Webber-Irvine battle. The two Ferraris have to find their way through.
So the Ferrari engineers sitting very relaxed in their garage, almost to the point, well, it's another weekend, aren't we getting another number 1 and 2? It was interesting just on the timing screen to see that Rubens Barrichello actually got through that traffic slightly better than race leader Michael Schumacher did. Schumacher's lap times dipped down into the low 1 minute 14s, but Barrichello was able to maintain a 1 minute 13-second lap.
Webber has lost touch a little bit with the Toyota and the Jaguar ahead, but Irvine was having a good old go at getting past Alan McNish there. He can see the red cars coming up behind, and he'd love to be able to get ahead of McNish before he has to move out of the way, but it's not going to happen. He's still behind McNish, and Barrichello will shortly find a way past as Michael Schumacher now tries to find a way past his former teammate, Eddie Irvine.
Eddie Irvine experienced enough to know how to get out of the way. There he does, he pulls over to the left of track. Barrichello will follow Michael Schumacher through without any problem.
The Ferraris are scything their way through the back markers. Michael Schumacher, Rubens Barrichello, and the gap opens and then it closes again between the two of them as Barrichello shadows every move that his teammate makes. Now he's got to try and find a way past the Jaguar of Eddie Irvine.
Well, I think Eddie is being a little bit rude. He should have allowed Barrichello through much more quickly than that. He's probably gone past the requisite number of blue flag stations. He could have let him through much easier, between 9 and 10. But of course Irvine still embroiled in that battle, still trying to hunt down the Toyota of McNish ahead of him. Look, McNish comes out of the slipstream of the Ferrari so much quicker is the Toyota in a straight line that he has to pull out to check running into the back of the Ferrari.
Yes, indeed, but Barrichello's lost out as a result of that. Now McNish is the one ahead of the Ferrari, and Barrichello giving the signal, what are you doing, get out of my way? And that has allowed Michael Schumacher to just break away a fraction more.
And as a result of that, Eddie Irvine closes up to the tail. There we see Alan McNish, Eddie Irvine, and still Mark Webber in contact with these two giants of the motor industry.
So Schumacher with a 2.3 second advantage over Rubens Barrichello. I wonder if they will still be pushing as hard as possible. Of course, the only danger in letting them race hard all the way is that it puts more strain on the machinery, but with the reliability that Ferrari have shown this year, well, you have to say they should be able to race all the way.
Well, Ben, Michael Schumacher's taking advantage of that little problem Barrichello had getting past Irvine, because he's gone fastest in first and second sectors and is en route to establish, I think, yet another new lap record. 2.6 seconds advantage over Barrichello.
Well, it's still Schumacher, Barrichello, Coulthard still in third, ahead of Trulli in fourth, and Villeneuve in fifth place. New lap record once again for Michael Schumacher on lap number 25, into the 1 minute 12s comfortably now, a 1:12.758, as BAR prepare for Villeneuve, and Villeneuve is in the pits.
So Villeneuve, who's driven a very strong first sector in this 73 lap Grand Prix, he follows his teammate Olivier Panis came in 2 laps earlier. This is a battle that's still been raging. Takuma Sato sandwiching Jenson Button in the Renault. Giancarlo Fisichella just ahead of him. There was an 8.4 second stop for Olivier Panis by the BAR team. Let's see what they can do for Jacques Villeneuve. Well, it's a slightly slower. The fuel hose was a little bit lazy in being withdrawn. So 9.4 seconds, that's 1 second. Easy to lose it in a pit stop. Very difficult to make it up during a race.
Villeneuve making his way out, and we'll have to see whether that moves him up or down the field. Villeneuve now rejoins the track, coming out behind that group that involves Fisichella, Jenson Button and Takuma Sato as well. There comes Heinz-Harald Frentzen, so Frentzen behind Villeneuve as they rejoin the fray. Mika Salo still running in the Toyota, but it's Michael Schumacher again with the lap record at a 1:12.754 as he attempts to further extend that advantage he has over Rubens Barrichello. The 2 Ferraris still in charge here. Montoya running in 5th place now that Villeneuve has made his pit stop, so that brings Montoya into 5th, and it also brings Raikkonen into 6th place. Heidfeld still running in the Sauber in 7th. Then it's Fisichella and Button and Sato, that trio that we've been following throughout the race. Villeneuve, having made his stop, rejoining in 11th position. So no problems for the Ferraris. Jordan now preparing for Sato. We heard them on the radio saying that Sato would be in, and sure enough, here he comes. And the Japanese driver looking for a clean stop, just locking the brakes.
Here. Pushing out to make this work. You're going to feel for a few laps more, so you're going to make this work to push, okay? Watch the white line on the way out.
Ferrari also preparing, and into the pits it is Michael Schumacher, the first of the Ferraris to make a pit stop. He was very, very quick in. Wondered for a moment as if he was going to lose it there.
Well, he came round that long, long right-hand curve and got to the point where he had to get the brakes on. Very late indeed.
So, crucial stop here for Michael Schumacher. 27 laps have been completed. It looks like they're both making 2 stops. So that gives the others perhaps a little bit more hope. Coulthard in the McLaren perhaps more likely to make it on a 1-stop strategy, as rejoining the fray once again, Michael Schumacher comes out just ahead of Mika Salo. And I don't think it will take him too long to come back out there. Well, there is David Coulthard, our race leader now. Oh no, sorry, 2nd place with Barrichello, of course, still leading this race. Coulthard coming through. I think he's actually just behind Michael, so that still leaves him in 3rd place. That shows you how rapid Ferrari were making their stop. Michael Schumacher rejoining in 2nd, and here comes Barrichello now to make his pit stop.
And Barrichello on his in lap, also pushing absolutely to the limit. He knows that opportunity to get into the lead of this race. He needed that very strong lap. Michael Schumacher 20.4 seconds behind. That was at the end of lap 27. So Barrichello comes down the pit lane. It's a long, long way down. They've revised the pit lane. Ferrari are now at the end of the pit lane as opposed to the beginning of the pit lane in the 2 previous years.
Now, will they get Rubens Barrichello out ahead of Michael Schumacher? Schumacher's coming through turn 13 around the banking. Identical time on the pit stop. So I think Michael will be in. There's Michael on the right, flashing past as Barrichello comes out.
And Barrichello's going to wait until he crosses those white lines in the pit lane before he can get up to speed. And well, Michael Schumacher, it's almost status quo. The advantage, in fact, that Schumacher had after Barrichello was delayed behind Irvine, in effect, has evaporated because they're back to where they were before they came across Eddie Irvine.
Ferrari on a 2-stop strategy, but there is David Coulthard, who we would guess is on a 1-stop, but they've managed to get out ahead of him on their first stop, and that is absolutely crucial. Great work by Ferrari once again, and Coulthard going to be up against it. He is running in 3rd place. 4th place is still Jarno Trulli.
And Olivier Panis trying to get out of the way to ensure he doesn't impede David Coulthard. And let's look behind. This is coming out of the pit lane. This is the Jordan.
Yes, taking a look at what happened as Sato rejoined.
Well, very close contact. You can see the car just to the right. Pedro de la Rosa in trouble. Yeah, and that's a retirement, I suspect, for the first of the Jaguars.
It's the first retirement, indeed, of the US Grand Prix. It is Pedro de la Rosa in the Jaguar. And that's a disappointing end to the day for the Spanish driver. Into the pits then comes Jarno Trulli from 4th place. So this is early on, but perhaps he's still on a 2-stop. Remember, they made a single stop in Monza, caught us out a little bit there. Let's see how much fuel goes on board. It's quite a long stop.
It's a lot of fuel going on board. They did this in Monza.
Fueling switch, P2, please. Going very well, mate. This is the time you've got to push hard. Remember, these next few laps is very hard now.
Well, the team encouraging Jarno Trulli to push very, very hard indeed. I think it's probably a little early to think that they could go the rest of the race distance. Some 44 laps on that tank full of fuel. They've got the projection 38 laps, but then they would have to come in for a splash and dash.
Well, it might just take them there. Perhaps, maybe they would be able to do it. We'll have to wait and see. Jarno Trulli using great strategy last time out in Monza with Renault to get into the points, and I wonder if they're up to... Oh, and there is a big conflagration now as the Jaguar catches fire. De La Rosa leaps away, so fairly major engine... Oh, he's fallen down the other side.
Well, that's just a slip of the foot as he went over the barrier. He hopped up and he's tumbled over, and actually the ground falls away behind the barrier. He misjudged the drop and slipped away on the grass. He's okay. And speak to the marshals and say, no, I'm okay. So Jaguar down to 1 car, a disappointing Grand Prix this weekend for the team that stunned everybody in Monza 2 weeks ago with that 3rd place podium finish.
Jacques Villeneuve now chasing after Jenson Button in the battle for 8th place. The two, they got the yellow flags up there, and presumably that's for the car that stopped beside the track, presumably De La Rosa. Here comes Button into the pits now.
Just trying to get a glimpse in that right front look. Watches, comes alongside Jacques Villeneuve and dives down. Then again, he's going to keep it in control. Is he on the grass? He is on the grass. And Jarno Trulli gets back. So Villeneuve, who put his heart in his mouth, dived down the inside, got the position, but was just too fast into the corner. Couldn't recover sufficiently, and Jarno Trulli's gone through again.
Great to see him have a go, though, John. Villeneuve, when he's on form like this, is always worth watching, and he's always prepared to attack, which is what's so great about him. Now, let's just see this line of cars. That's Jenson Button rejoining just in behind the second of the Jordans, Takuma Sato.
So, Jenson Button's out. Other Renault has also had its service. Action all around the racetrack. Look how close the two Ferraris are. This is closer than they've been at any point other than on the first lap. The last laps were identical in terms of lap time. Schumacher on a 14.218 and Barrichello on a 14.207, and now you can split the difference by a few thousandths.
Now I wonder whether that indicates any sort of problem on this second set of tyres for Michael Schumacher. Sometimes happens that they can pick up a handling imbalance as they change the tyres during a Grand Prix. The car not always responding in exactly the same way as on the first set of tyres. He did start on a scrubbed set of tyres as well, so it might have just affected the handling, and I wonder if Barrichello now taking advantage of that on his second set of tyres. Meanwhile, the Ferraris might be dominating, but Coulthard still running in 3rd place. Montoya now in 4th place, let's just to remind you, because Trulli has made his stop. Raikkonen is 5th. And that brings Giancarlo Fisichella now into 6th place.
But I think the real focus right now is about what David Coulthard and McLaren are up to. He's just 2.8 seconds behind race leader, 2.6 behind Barrichello. And, well, we're ready to see is David Coulthard coming in. No, he's not. Williams are preparing. So are McLaren going to do one of their trick, very long first stops and then try and get position? They could be in a strong position if that is the case. Montoya came in, I think, unexpected there, John, because they really had to rush to get out there, to get ready to refuel him and to put the new tyres on. We're waiting. A lot of fuel on board again. 11.2 seconds and Montoya is underway again. Well, another frustrating Grand Prix, in part because the two teammates could not decide on which part of this racetrack they were going to run.
Some of these engines sounded a bit rough, but I think it might have just been the traction control operating through the first corner. Montoya rejoins the fray behind Fisichella, who's running 5th now.
And again, this battle that's going on between Renault and Jacques Villeneuve, Jarno Trulli. Jacques Villeneuve got a good run a lap ago into turn 1, this time not close enough. The speed of Villeneuve, 347 kilometers per hour. The Renault nowhere near as quick.
Well, Villeneuve looking at every opportunity to get past the Renault. But this section of track doesn't lend it to overtaking. Alan McNish is under attack once again, and Irvine gets through.
This time Irvine gets the job done. He had a go before, didn't get it complete. Now Irvine leading the Toyota, the Jordan. That's Sato, then Button, Webber and Heinz Harald Frentzen, this line of cars. And of course, race leaders very close to putting a lap on them for a second time, of course, due to the pit stops. That's the overlap you get.
Wonderful battle. And now let's just ride on board Michael Schumacher's car once again. They've got involved in quite a bit of traffic themselves as we're watching this battle. It's Villeneuve versus Trulli, and this time surely Jacques Villeneuve's got the job done. Can he control it? Yes, he can, and he takes the place away.
Textbook overtaking from the former world champion Jacques Villeneuve. He got the slipstream. He knows he's got a quicker car in a straight line than the Renault, and he used it. He came off turns 12, 13, picked up that too, and I'm sure these cars coming behind, we see Irvine now pulling away from McNish. Button, and he's got Ralf Schumacher. Now Ralf Schumacher's playing catch-up, comes up alongside Jenson Button. Will he go eyeball to eyeball? Yes, he does. Jenson backs out of it. Was that wise? Of course it was wise, because Ralf Schumacher's not in this race. He's running in 19th and last place.
He's a lap down, yes, that's right. So for Jenson Button, it wasn't worth fighting that one to the last, and he allows Ralf Schumacher through. So Irvine running in 10th, McNish 11th, then Sato in 12th place. Here come the Ferraris to lap this group of cars.
And then the gap between Michael Schumacher and David Coulthard, which was 2.8 seconds, is now 1.5 seconds. And David Coulthard is yet not to make a first, maybe the only pit stop of the day, where we believe that Ferrari have already been in once. They will come in twice before this 73-lap Grand Prix is finished.
So the Ferraris finding it hard to battle their way through the traffic, and it's part of the nature of this circuit. There is Coulthard running in third place with the Ferraris in touch, and that must feel good to him after a season that has on occasion seen him lapped by the Ferraris, and he's in shape. There he is.
Now David Coulthard has got to find a way past Mark Webber as quickly as possible, otherwise he will lose contact to the two Ferraris. He would like to slip, well, maybe within a second or so, as we see the Ferrari get well, this is such a busy racetrack. Ralf Schumacher passes Giancarlo Fisichella. This is a lap. In fact, he's right now, well, he's one lap down.
Yes, he's already a lap down after that rear wing being changed at the start of the Grand Prix, when there was the incident between himself and teammate Montoya. Now, let's just ride with Schumacher. In fact, we're with Barrichello at the moment, both of them trying to cut their way through the traffic. So Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello right in amongst the gaggle, but look how close David Coulthard in the McLaren is in third place. He's right with the Ferrari.
He will be right with them, because ahead of Michael Schumacher you've got Takuma Sato, then you've got Alan McNish, Eddie Irvine and Nick Heidfeld. And if David Coulthard can get under the rear wing of Rubens Barrichello and get drawn along with these two Ferraris, then he is going to be in the pound seat, because he will probably be on that one-stop strategy. Ferrari will make a second stop. When this all unfolds after those stops, well, will David Coulthard be in the frame? I think he will.
Sato moves out of the way of Michael Schumacher, and now Barrichello trying to find a way past the Jordan as well. Down the inside goes Barrichello, and that means that he's lapped the Jordan safely, but it's still a Ferrari 1-2 after 36 laps. We are just about at half distance in the United States Grand Prix. Ferraris are dominating, but David Coulthard is close behind in third in the McLaren.
And Takuma Sato, we just got a glimpse, he pulled way off to the left to let David Coulthard go through to continue his chase. And Alan McNish suddenly sees his mirrors full of red. Ferrari lets Michael Schumacher go through. He's going to have behind him Rubens Barrichello and then David Coulthard. Barrichello's through. Coulthard's going to have to wait. He's anxious. He's impatient. Alan McNish, get out of the way. Let your fellow Scotsman go through. He's done it. Good job by McNish.
Go back to position 9.
So Coulthard maintains the pressure on the two Ferraris, and once they get into clear air, it'll be interesting to see whether he can still maintain that pace inside the McLaren pit. All is calm, but at Jordan it looks as though they are perhaps ready to do a little more work. Wouldn't expect to see either of their cars perhaps in, although Fisichella, of course, is yet to make a stop, and we have got to around half distance. For those drivers making a single stop in this race, their pit stops could be coming up pretty soon.
Well, 3 cars in the top 6 have yet to make pit stops. They are the 2 McLarens of Coulthard and Raikkonen, and the Jordan of Giancarlo Fisichella.
And that is Fisichella, therefore, but will be refueled in just a moment as the Jordan crew go to work and prepare for the Italian to come into the pits. Vital points on offer.
Slippery, easy in.
He is into the pits, Fisichella, and there we see him.
Look at the brake dust, the carbon dust. Brakes are not used particularly heavily on this circuit. It's really only at the end of the straight where they get a real good workout. So the hose stays on a long time, just over 10.5 seconds, and that extra second just to remove it and get him underway.
So the one and only stop for Giancarlo Fisichella.
Good job, mate, keep this up.
As he rejoins, Trulli has already gone past, and Nick Heidfeld is just heading down. Heidfeld, will he be 8th? Yes, Heidfeld moves up to 8th place, and that pushes Fisichella down to 9th position. But Heidfeld has already made one stop, is likely to stop again.
Yes, and Giancarlo Fisichella most likely has now got sufficient fuel on board to go to the end of the Grand Prix. So while he's dropped behind those that are on the one stop, when they then make their pit stops, he will then move up the order and could be another possible points scoring position. Certainly the battle between the Jordan and BAR teams, both using Honda engines, is going to be tough because Renault are in there splitting BAR and Jordan.
The Sauber ahead of him is that of Nick Heidfeld. Both Saubers still running, and remember, we've only lost so far one car from this Grand Prix with over half distance completed. The only car out is the Jaguar of Pedro de la Rosa.
Looks like McLaren are beginning to get ready for a pit stop. The helmets and the fire protective clothing being put on. Coulthard, he was 2.1 seconds as they came across the line the last lap. Looks like it's closed up again as they come through the slower parts of the circuit now, out of turn 11 and on to this famous Indy 500 banking.
Quite a sight to see the McLaren that close to these 2 Ferraris. But remember, he's still got to make his one and only stop. But then the 2 Ferraris will have to stop later on as well.
Well, the gap remains static and still at 2.1 seconds. It looks a lot less when you see it there on screen, but that was the indication. 2.1 seconds, that is to Michael Schumacher, but it's actually under a second to Barrichello. So the gap to Barrichello and Coulthard has closed down. It's not noticeable on Schumacher with that 2.1 second advantage.
Well, this is certainly an impressive performance so far from David Coulthard, but we're just going to have to see how this race is resolved. Plenty of laps to go. 34 laps remain out of 73, and that Mercedes power plant in the back of the McLaren here, working hard. Remember, last year it was his teammate then, Mika Hakkinen, who took victory, beating Michael Schumacher in a straight fight. McLaren Mercedes do have a great race setup, but can they sustain this pace?
Well, it looks to me like David Coulthard able to match the Ferraris in the part of the racetrack which has traditionally been the strength of Ferraris. They're not necessarily the quickest cars down the straightaway here because they've set their car up to be fast in the lap. They used their advantage of pole position to do so. But now David Coulthard onto the straight. The gap remains pretty constant. In fact, it's gone up to a second. He's lost a tenth of a second on that lap.
Now we're looking at Mark Webber. Fuel flaps up on that car. I think he may well have a problem here as Webber seems to be cruising and heading back towards the pits. We gather Raikkonen, they're also worried about the engine on Kimi Raikkonen's car. He may have lost a cylinder, but it's Webber.
Steering very inconsistent, high and low spots, possible to drive.
And let's see what happened to Raikkonen.
Oops, a daisy, big lock-up, and that's Olivier Panis. And so Rebbe caught unawares by Panis lifting off to let Raikkonen go through. But Raikkonen has gone through, still running in 4th spot. In fact, interestingly, if he has a problem, it's not hurting him that much. He's just given his fastest sector time in Sector 1. So if it is down on horsepower, he's picking it up somewhere.
Well, Mark Webber has driven straight into the Minardi garage. It looks as though it's race over for the Australian, and they team look ready for Alex Young to be coming in pretty rapidly. He's currently running in 16th place. There is Kimi Räikkönen. Can't really tell how that engine's running through this section because it sounds rough as the traction control cuts in. We're riding back with David Coulthard in third place.
Yeah, Räikkönen's running about 0.8 of a second a lap slower than Coulthard and the two race leaders, but still holding his own. He's got Juan Pablo Montoya, 5th place behind him, some 13.7 seconds.
Alex Young has just brought his Minardi into the pits as we ride with Coulthard. Two McLarens still run 3rd and 4th, remember. And Juan Pablo Montoya is still in 5th place. And now McLaren prepare for a pit stop. Will we see Räikkönen in, or will we see David Coulthard in from 3rd position? Montoya 5th, remember, then Villeneuve 6th. Trulli is 7th, Heidfeld 8th, Fisichella and Irvine next.
And David Coulthard again in that slowest corner of the circuit, closes right up to the rear of the Ferrari. Then the gap once again settles back down to that we've seen just under a second to Ruben Barrichello, but 2.1 seconds to the race leader Michael Schumacher.
And it's Coulthard. He peels off to come into the pits for his one and only stop here. And can this stop help him to really challenge the Ferraris? Look at how he locks up right at the last minute to get down to the speed limit and make his way down to the McLaren pits.
Lap 42 of a 73-lap race. David Coulthard drives into the pits. Michelin tyres look absolutely immaculate. So David Coulthard, if this all works out for him in this pit stop, he gets back out on track, doesn't catch a lot of the back markers that he may have to re-lap in a heavily laden car. Well, he's in very good shape indeed, and his teammate now comes down the pit lane to take away that 3rd position from Coulthard.
Yes, Räikkönen yet to stop, of course, and he's refueled for the rest of the race. So, crucial section of the race coming up for David Coulthard. He needs to really put in a very, very rapid sequence of laps now as we wait to see what happens to Ferrari when they presumably make a 2nd pit stop later in this race. Ralf Schumacher getting out of the way of the Ferraris. Already a lap down, as we said earlier. No point in him holding up the 2 red cars. The view on board. Let's just ride with Michael as he comes up behind Irvine again. And the 2 Ferraris lapping in the mid 1:13 currently. Irvine checking his mirror, and he'll move out of the way of Schumacher. Meanwhile, it looks like Kimi Räikkönen's about to be making his one and only pit stop. Here he comes.
So the young Finn makes his way down the pit lane. He's been dropping back in terms of time. We think there may be one of those 10 cylinders not functioning properly. Nevertheless, he's got an opportunity to finish in the points. He was in 3rd place when he came in. He would probably drop back to his natural position, which has just been inside the top 6.
The team goes to work. The fuel a little bit late getting engaged there, I would say. So that may cost another fraction of a second. And finally away. That was a longish stop, 12.9 seconds.
Yes, you could just sit there. You could almost count the seconds like there were days. So Räikkönen gets back out. The engine sounds fine, accelerating down the pit lane. So maybe it's one of the problems is maybe in the traction control that it's maybe causing some form of misfire at the lower speed range, but not on full throttle as he accelerated out of the pit lane.
He retains 6th place, ahead there of Jarno Trulli, in 7th place in the Renault. And behind him still Heidfeld, some 7 seconds behind Trulli. Fisichella in 9th, and Irvine, there he is, in 10th. Irvine rejoins the fray after his one and only pit stop. We'll see where this brings him back out. It's going to bring him out behind Takuma Sato, and then the next group is Jenson Button, Heinz-Harald Frentzen and Mika Salo, so he's going to come out behind them. Salo currently 13th.
So a good stop from Jaguar. They've put enough fuel on board for 31 laps. That's probably, in fact, 2 laps more than they needed to do, where in the case of Coulthard and McLaren, they put it in the precise amount he needed to come across the start-finish line, but maybe not enough to make it round on that slowing down lap.
Now we've seen Montoya make a stop. This will be for Ralf because his only stop today has been for a rear wing change. He hasn't had any fuel yet, so he's gone quite a long way into this race. They obviously started Ralf with a lot of fuel on board, but here he comes into the pits.
Yes, it makes you wonder sometimes the wisdom of those 2 Williams drivers battling as they did into turn 1 at the beginning of the 2nd lap. If that was the case with Ralf with so much fuel on board, maybe he ought to have been wise to let his own teammate go rather than force the issue with the consequence where his rear wing was knocked off and there may be potential damage to the right rear of Montoya's car.
Of course, perhaps they put a bit more fuel in just at the start of the race, changed tactics perhaps when they changed that rear wing. Great view from the onboard camera there as he's refueled in 10.2 seconds and is sent on his way again.
And remember, it wasn't only one Grand Prix ago where these two drivers also had a problem in the first corner of the first lap at Monza. So I think. And remember, it wasn't only one Grand Prix ago where these two drivers also had a problem in the first corner of the first lap at Monza. So I think there's a case for Frank Williams to take both drivers, sit them down, explain some of the facts of life about being a team member and not just being totally individual.
Now, Michael Schumacher's advantage over his teammates on 2.7 seconds, so it's opened up just a little bit. David Coulthard, having made his one and only stop, is now a full 32.8 seconds behind. But remember, we are expecting the two Ferraris to make a second stop. Now, perhaps on around lap number 50 or so, Barrichello stopped on lap 50 last year for his second stop. So that gives us about another 4 or 5 laps minimum, I would think, before we see them come in again.
Yes, it could be as many as maybe 5 or up to 7 laps, but somewhere in the early 50s. We're on lap 46 now. So Michael Schumacher, Rubens Barrichello continue on, totally unchallenged throughout this afternoon's Grand Prix. But of course, this Grand Prix will really come alive when those two Ferraris do make their final stop for the afternoon. And it's up to David Coulthard to push as hard as he knows how to. And David Coulthard's greatest strengths, of course, are in the Grand Prix.
Just looking at the lap times being set by some of the other drivers out there, Jacques Villeneuve still going pretty quickly. A 1:14.1 last time around, 0.3 of a second faster than David Coulthard on the lap, some 0.6 faster than Montoya. So don't count Villeneuve out of this. He's 5.9 seconds behind Montoya. He's running 5th at the moment.
But of course, the penalty that Coulthard has to deal with is that he has got at this point in the Grand Prix a great deal more weight on board with that load of fuel he took, whereas Villeneuve and others around do not.
Coming around to complete another lap then. 47 laps completed by race leader Michael Schumacher. The gap between himself and Rubens Barrichello, some 2.9 seconds as they crossed the line that time. Coulthard then a full 37 seconds off the race leader. That means he's 34 seconds behind Barrichello. And the lap times, the low 1:13s for Ferrari, 1:14s for Coulthard at this stage with quite a lot of fuel on board.
Well, waiting to see David Coulthard coming through to see what his most recent lap is. And lapping at present 1.5 seconds slower than the lead cars.
The battle that may well develop here is the one between this man, Juan Pablo Montoya, and Villeneuve behind him, because Villeneuve is going that little bit more quickly. It's not by much, but fractions of a second each lap. So Montoya may begin to see the BAR Honda looming in his mirrors over the next 10 laps or so. Both the former Indy 500 winners, and they could be battling over 4th place in the Grand Prix.
Well, the advantage that Villeneuve has is that he's pretty quick in a straight line. But of course, the Williams BMW overall is the quicker car around the lap, but we're not seeing that on board. Villeneuve being projected 10 laps. So that's the time we'd expect to see him come in for his second stop of the afternoon.
Yes, we're expecting Villeneuve to have to make a second stop, whereas Montoya... Oh, and a big blow up for the Asia Tech of Alex Young. So the second Minardi goes out of the race.
Yeah, we can see you positioned here on TV. Nice drive though, Alex, well done. That was a good one.
Well, disappointment for the Malaysian, who's had a tough season this year, missed 2 Grand Prix after failing to qualify for several. His place was taken by British driver Anthony Davidson. A reliability issue taking him out, and Minardi unfortunately failing to get either car to the finish here.
Well, the residue of the smoke, and no doubt there's a fair amount of liquid on there. Here we see it again. Alex Young, engine revving probably about 16.5, maybe 17,000 RPM, and that's both banks that smoke is coming from, not one as sometimes the case, and that is about as big a blow up as you're going to get. And when an engine revs at that very high level, well, it's going to be very little of that engine's going to be used, other than maybe for somebody's There's Michael Schumacher into the pit lane.
Michael Schumacher, race leader, comes in then on lap number 48 to lap 49 being completed as this lap is done, and Barrichello retakes the lead of the US Grand Prix. The question is, where will this put Michael out in regard to David Coulthard? Coulthard some 40 seconds behind before Michael Schumacher made his stop, and Coulthard currently going through the twiddly section on the last part of the lap.
And a good stop, 7.8 seconds from Ferrari. So we look to see David Coulthard only coming out of turn 11 as Michael Schumacher makes his way down the pit lane. So it's going to be fairly easy, in my view, for Michael Schumacher. There he is back on the racetrack. David Coulthard just about coming into turn 13. That's the corner that there he is, comes out. So Michael Schumacher comfortably back into the lead. Coulthard, well, certainly when Barrichello makes his pit stop, come a little closer, but nevertheless looks like Ferrari have done sufficient here this afternoon to consolidate that two-stop strategy.
It seems to be working for them. We'll see Barrichello come in just a moment. There he is, race leader currently, and he will be making his way into the Ferrari pit for last refueling, a new set of tyres once again, and then be sent on his way. And the question is, can he get a little closer to Michael Schumacher in the closing stages of this race?
So again, Barrichello late on the brakes. You could see the car just fidgeting around as he got the speed down to 80 kilometers per hour, 50 miles an hour in the pit lane. Barrichello makes his way this long Indy pit lane. Comes to a standstill. The Ferrari team absolutely perfect in every respect. Now Michael Schumacher comes through turn 12 into turn 13. And this is going to be the battle for the lead of the race. Can Barrichello get out, or Michael Schumacher? It looks very close, but Michael Schumacher, I believe, will get the job done and will consolidate his lead.
Yes, there we are. Michael Schumacher turns into turn 1 as Rubens Barrichello exits pit lane. The gap remains between the two Ferraris. They are running first and second again, and they are some little way ahead of David Coulthard. In fact, the gap as they came through that time, some 15 seconds back to Coulthard. So I don't think Coulthard's got much chance of beating them unless they have a problem. We haven't seen many of those throughout the 2002 season. So also making a pit stop, Olivier Panis, he rejoins the fray again. So it looks as though both BAR Hondas are running reliably at this point. It's Villeneuve that we're keeping an eye on. He has closed the gap to Montoya to just under 3 seconds now in the battle for 4th position.
So Barrichello on his out lap. And there just ahead you see Michael Schumacher, who's resumed the lead. Once again having to catch up.
Oh, and off is Frentzen. Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the Sauber, and that's a disappointment. He was running in 14th position.
Again, off at the turn 2 into turn 3.
He'd just been into the pits, in fact, had just come out of the pits, so a mistake as he rejoined the track.
Well, that's a little bit fundamental. Somebody of Heinz-Harald Frentzen's experience should not get caught by that. Now we see, Kimi Räikkönen has blown up
again.
The problem that we had seen. We thought it was an engine problem. It didn't sound like it when he made his second pit stop, or first pit stop, but clearly it was a problem. Yet again, the fin is out.
The 11th non-finish in 16 Grand Prix for Kimi Räikkönen, and similar to in Italy at Monza and at Spa, the last 2 Grand Prix, the Räikkönen seems to be getting all of the bad luck at McLaren Mercedes. He does not want any help. He's become very used to getting out of a Grand Prix car before the checkered flag is seen. Now, Villeneuve's made his stop. That's, of course, dropped him back down the order again. He was closing on Montoya. But now, with Räikkönen out, his main threat will be Trulli. Trulli will go through. There he is. And Villeneuve will emerge behind Trulli. And indeed, maybe... let's just see where he comes out. Behind Button, possibly, as well. Rejoins the fray now.
And the question, Ben, really will remain, are the Renaults, as they were in Monza, on a one-stop, or will they have to come back in, as we expected that they will do? But Jacques Villeneuve drops down and he's going to have to start all the hard work that he's put into the first sector, into the second sector. Here's Räikkönen, he comes out of turn 7, and all of a sudden, and just behind, indeed, you Ben point out, Mercedes-Benz advertising, and, well, it can't get more ironic, I think, than that.
Great shame. Villeneuve, we'll just take a look at some of the onboard. Well, this is where as he went past that engine blow-up, and you can see that was Panis just going through, and that was the explosion, if you like, and the oil and water and muck being thrown out.
Yeah, so that was on the camera lens, but imagine what it was like on the driver's visor. Now, the drivers do have polystyrene rip-offs that they can peel off, and I suspect that one will be very quickly removed indeed.
So the gap between the two Ferraris up front is still only 2 seconds, as Coulthard is still some 15 seconds off the pace of the lead Ferrari. So it's a long, big gap. It's Montoya running in 4th place still behind the McLaren. Trulli running 5th now. Villeneuve has rejoined in 6th. He is behind Trulli, but he is ahead of Fisichella. So at the moment, it looks like BAR Honda will get the final point, and Jordan Honda will lose out. But there's still some way to go in this
that
race.
is something that Jordan do not want, because they're on 7 points, BAR on 6, and if they finish that way, they'll be equal in 7th place.
Barrichello certainly has not given up hopes of finding a way past his teammate, but we've seen how hard it is to overtake here. It would take a pretty big gamble, a big risk to actually attack and try and pass, and the pace that lap from Michael Schumacher quite a lot slower than he has been doing. I wonder now if they haven't had the order, okay boys, slow it down a bit, let's protect the machinery, you're running 1-2, it might be time to relax a little.
Well, we saw how the strategy played out in Italy when Barrichello used that 2-stop strategy to his advantage, and after the second stop he came out just ahead of Schumacher. This time it's the other way around. Michael has got the advantage, and I would not expect to see Barrichello challenging for victory here now that that second round of pit stops has been completed.
Let's ride with Barrichello. Oh, we just lose the picture for a moment as we enjoy the ride with the V10 powered Ferrari that is currently running in 2nd place behind teammate Michael Schumacher. Now, some other battles to keep an eye on, I think, particularly if Villeneuve can try and close the gap up to Jarno Trulli in the battle for 5th place.
Well, there really aren't too many going on. In fact, just the thing of interest was watching Fisichella. He's about to be lapped. Oh, and once again, Nick Heidfeld gets it all wrong up in turn 1. So
he's being lapped by Coulthard there.
Well, he just spun out of there, no doubt he moved slightly over to the left. There's a lot of rubber build-up just offline now. These very soft Bridgestone and Michelin tires shredding rubber, and that gets rolled off to the outside of a corner. It gets quite built up there. If you get onto that, it's like getting onto ice. So let's look again and watch what happened. So Nick Heidfeld, watch for the McLaren to come up the inside. There, well, where is it? There it is. So Heidfeld doing a very generous job, staying so far offline, almost compromising himself.
Yes, he managed to save it, thankfully, and he's still in the race, running in 9th place, but it doesn't look like Heidfeld's going to be able to back up the 6th place finish he scored here 12 months ago. He's well out of the points, and not much prospect at the moment, although he's only 1.4 seconds behind Jenson Button, who's running in 8th place.
Yes, but it's the teammate to Button, Jarno Trulli, who's under attack, because he's got Jacques Villeneuve homing down on him, 4.4 seconds behind, and lap times, well, about 3 or 4 tenths a second different, but nevertheless Villeneuve doesn't want 6th place, he wants 5th place, and if he were to finish in 5th place, that would then put BAR ahead of Jordan in the World Championship Manufacturers Championship.
So a good tussle still to enjoy, as we have 16 cars still running in this Grand Prix. Out of the 20 that started, that was moving out of the way there very comfortably and very generously. Jenson Button allowing David Coulthard through. Coulthard still on a charge, still trying to apply some pressure to the Ferraris. Michael Schumacher has backed it off a bit, and it's allowed Barrichello to close to within 9/10 of a second. Well, these two enjoying themselves once again in equipment that is just a step ahead of the opposition. Ferrari's progress over the last few years, and now culminating in an astonishing 2002 season, and this is another display that they're putting on here today.
Yes, both Ferraris do, in fact, have slowed down. They're now running at a pace which is barely any quicker than David Coulthard, who's in 3rd place. Coulthard 16 seconds behind race leader, and some 15 seconds behind Barrichello in 2nd place. So clearly Ferrari team saying, okay, you've done the work, you've done that what's necessary to put yourselves into position for another 1-2 for this famous Maranello team.
We're watching the 5 times world champion hard at work, but not very hard, is it?
No, Ben, he's not hard at work. This is so easy right now. You can see how little effort Michael Schumacher is actually putting in. But the pace, of course, they're running at is still quicker than the rest of the field. But because this year's Ferrari is such a good car, it makes the job look, from that onboard camera shot of Michael Schumacher, like he's just doing a bit of, well, weekend shopping.
Well, he comes around to complete another lap. That's 57 laps completed now, as the 2 Ferraris storm away at the front of the field. 14.9 seconds was the gap back from Barrichello to Coulthard last time around, but they're just controlling that gap. And then we see Montoya still marching on in 4th position, Trulli some 30 seconds behind Montoya, and it's Trulli who has to watch out for Villeneuve. Villeneuve a 14.7 and Trulli about the same pace, so there's not much to choose between the Renault and the BAR Honda, currently battling over 5th place, but separated by some 4 seconds. Now, looking at the speed trap figures there, you can still see that Takuma Sato is still the fastest through the speed tracks here today, at just under 220 miles an hour.
But what's interesting is this Ferrari top speed, Michael Schumacher only 13th quickest, but the reason for that is that Ferrari, by winning pole, winning the front row of the grid, were able to set their car up to be fast in the race, to be efficient in the race. They didn't need to compromise their race setup to try and have a high maximum speed to aid them overtake some of the cars they may have done had they had to battle harder than they are.
Little battle going on for 8th place here as Jenson Button tries to fend off the advances of Nick Heidfeld, but they're both lapping at a fairly similar pace, I have to say. And Heidfeld in the Sauber just trying to keep the pressure on the Renault driver ahead.
And the other Renault driver, Jarno Trulli, he's also managed to stem the attack from Jacques Villeneuve. The gap hovering round to 4.5 seconds. It was down to 4.1. So Jarno Trulli responding to Jacques Villeneuve, currently the last of the point scorers in 6th place.
Yes, only points scored down to 6th, so Fisichella and Button, Heidfeld, Irvine, all no chance of scoring points at the moment. Irvine's in 10th place, Sato's still running, he's in 11th position. Hasn't had that many finishes this year, but so far the Japanese driver okay. Let's just ride with Heidfeld. You've got Jenson Button, your target, the next car ahead. Heidfeld keeping it smooth, still on the limit as Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello control the pace of this race.
Yes, and they're slowing the pace down with 14 laps remaining, and by the lap they're reducing their pace. They were running in the 1 minute 13s, then they dropped into the 14s. Now they're at the high 114s and Barrichello in a middle 115.
Well, we've seen eras of domination in Formula One. Fantastic shots through the first couple of corners as the Ferraris in action. But as a dominant team go, this Ferrari team is certainly one of the best. They are likely to match the record of the number of 1-2 finishes scored by a team here today. 14 1-2 finishes scored by Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost between 1988 and 1989. Remember those days when McLaren Honda had such an advantage over everybody else, but of course Senna and Prost were involved and engaged in a mighty battle between themselves. Well, today we're looking at the 14th 1-2 finish, not just this season, but overall they're running together as teammates over the last few years. The 14th time that we'll see a Schumacher and Barrichello 1-2.
Well, further down the field, things are staying fairly status quo. There we see the number of pit stops the respective top 6 drivers have made, and Coulthard, Montoya and Trulli are only on that 1 stop. The 2 Ferraris and Villeneuve have made 2 stops, and it appears that the 2-stop strategy for the front runners is the right way to go. For Coulthard and McLaren, well, they like to do these 1-stop, go very deep into a race and hope that by the time they've made that stop with a light load of fuel for the last quarter, maybe last third of the race, and fresh tyres, they are going to be in strong shape. Here this afternoon, they've done a great job, but not good enough to beat the 2 Ferraris.
No, but good enough to beat the Williams, the sole remaining Williams of Juan Pablo Montoya. He's still going, but he's down in 4th place, a lonely 4th. He's nearly 9 seconds behind Coulthard.
Yes, I just wonder whether the pace of Coulthard today and McLaren would have beaten that of the Williams, but I have to say, with that contact in turn 1 at the end of the first lap, the 2 Williams drivers did not help their cause. The prospect of Montoya getting a podium was, I think, quite reasonable, but doing what they did, that shot any chance right in the foot, and it looks like David Coulthard will be the last of the 3 on the podium this afternoon.
Montoya still pushing in his 4th place. He's just recorded a 1 minute 13.965, the only driver currently in the 1 minute 13s. So the Ferraris, of course, perfectly capable of lapping at that pace, but they have just decided to ease off a little bit, maintain the gap to David Coulthard at a comfortable margin. Currently 14 seconds between race leader and the Coulthard in 3rd place. And there, Ferrari in their accustomed position, perhaps, just counting the laps down and heading for another victory this year. Michael Schumacher has had a perfect drive so far today. Still 12 laps to complete, but it doesn't look like he's going to be beaten. And let's just ride with him a second. Looks like anybody could do it.
Well, the car is just such a fantastic car, but believe me, it is not as easy as these stars are making it look. Even a car like a Ferrari in the hands of somebody inexperienced or not even talented, it would be no easy task.
Well, we were watching the battle between Jenson Button and Nick Heidfeld, but if anything, the gap's opened up. A bit of a slow lap last time around from Heidfeld. Whether he encountered some traffic or just made a mistake somewhere, he has lost touch a little further with Jenson Button. And in fact, he's got to watch out because Eddie Irvine is definitely closing that gap up behind. And as he heads down into the first corner, we can just see the Jaguar not far behind him.
No, it's showing at 1.9 seconds as they came across the start-finish line. There is Eddie Irvine. As he comes out of turn 2, he's got Ralf Schumacher behind him, but Ralf Schumacher is still running 16th and last, the victim of that first turn incident with his own teammate. But Eddie Irvine under no obligations whatsoever to let the the Williams BMW, which is running in the mid-114s, past the Jaguar, which is running in 1:15.0.
Again, a good lap from Montoya on that last lap, a 1:13.8. Again, the fastest driver on track, but he's still a long way behind Coulthard. No real prospect of catching up to Coulthard. And I wonder how Eddie Irvine feels, John. Last time, 3rd place at Monza. This time, struggling in 10th position.
Well, it was a great weekend for Jaguar up until the point where qualifying started, and they found the car that they were very happy with was not the car that turned up for qualifying, and that's just a function of the aerodynamics of the car, the increase in the ambient and track temperature, and the fundamental shortcomings of this R3 Jaguar. But still pretty quick, very strong Ford V10 engine in the back of the Jaguar, and Ralf Schumacher, you can see, in no position to challenge, not to take a position, but just to try and move further and get out of the fumes, the slipstream of Irvine's Jaguar.
Well, the Jaguar fans are here, but they won't have quite the same celebrations that they had 2 weeks ago in Italy. But nonetheless, he's still running reliably, unlike his teammate De La Rosa, who of course went out the first retirement. Still, we have 16 cars running as we get into the final 10 laps of this race.
Juan Pablo Montoya, you might think that he's consolidated in 4th place. Well, he's not. He's still pushing hard, still running in the mid-1 minute 13 seconds, trying to chase down David Coulthard, who's in 3rd place. 8.2 seconds the gap, and well, it's 9 laps to go as the 2 Ferraris come across the start-finish line. Still pushing hard in that 2nd sector. So Montoya, well, he feels, I'm going to try and do something for my team, and that something is to get 3rd place away from Coulthard.
Yes, and just to show that the car is quick. In fact, everybody getting back into the 113s now. The Ferraris having to up their pace a little bit because of Coulthard going a bit quicker, and now Montoya on 1:13.3. That's his fastest personal lap of the race. Listen to Eddie Irvine. coming from about 210, 215 miles an hour down to 70 miles an hour, hard on the brakes into turn 1.
Yes, not as hard as we've seen, Eddie, maybe just going through the motions, brake slightly earlier than maybe you would do if you're in a battle for position into that corner. Nonetheless, continuing the process, running 1 minute 14.7s, 14.6s. He's 1.1 seconds behind Nick Heidfeld. There you can see him just ahead from this camera view. That's that Sauber. 9th place, 10th place. Well, does it matter to a driver? Possibly not, but it does matter to the teams. It's very important for the teams to maximise any position in any Grand Prix wherever possible.
The Ferraris are across the line. 3.5 seconds separate them. Look back, and you won't see Coulthard for a little while. He is some 10 seconds.
There he is. Well, Coulthard under pressure. He's having to up his pace. That's what's driving the two Ferraris to up their pace. But David Coulthard, there's Juan Pablo Montoya, 7 seconds. So Montoya by the lap is taking, well, on that last lap, he took over half a second out of Coulthard's 3rd place advantage.
So let's just watch Montoya for a moment, because there's no doubt he has been attacking lap after lap just recently, and the Colombians don't have a great deal to cheer about. If they saw their man get onto the podium, well, they'd be over the moon, as everyone knows how tough it is to beat the Ferraris. But at the present moment, he has a 7-second gap to David Coulthard to work on. There he is in the background.
There's just the length of that back straight. That's the distance between the Williams and the McLaren. There are the times. You can see how they've come down, and it's on average about half a second a lap that Montoya's been eating in to David Coulthard's lead. It's 7 seconds as they came across the line on lap 65. So, and it's now lap 66, so we wait to see what the gap will be with only 7 laps to go.
Toyotas are still running. Mika Salo running in 14th position at the moment. Alan McNish still running as well. He's in 15th place. Coulthard turns into turn 1, and we look back to see Montoya, the gap down to 6.4 seconds.
Yes, a further 0.6 of a second. Montoya's chewed out of David Coulthard's 3rd place, and it's not going to be enough. I mean, he might catch him, but then getting past, well, that's going to take a move of bravery of a magnitude. Only Juan Pablo Montoya, I don't think he can bite into the lead. Coulthard is able to judge his pace against the remaining laps, and the mathematics don't really add up.
No, that's right. They had their own little coming together at the Nürburgring earlier this year. Look at Heidfeld, how he's coming under pressure now from Eddie Irvine, who's just a half a second behind. So he's got to watch out. And then Ralf Schumacher behind, but remember, he's a lap down on these guys, but still running at their pace.
Yes, Eddie Irvine wants to find himself in position. We're coming into turn 8. Not to pass here, but just to put Nick Heidfeld under pressure, because Eddie Irvine knows he's got a pretty quick car in a straight line. Nick Heidfeld's car not as fast. The horsepower the Jaguar Ford V10 produces is greater than that, but we think that's in that Petronas badge Ferrari engine. That's for the last year Ferrari Grand Prix engine. Ralf Schumacher just getting a bit of a grandstand view. Montoya down to 5.2 seconds now over David Coulthard, but this battle with Irvine and Nick Heidfeld also attracting our attention. There's Peter Sauber on the pit lane. He's watching almost nervously. Can his driver stave off Irvine in the Jaguar?
Montoya's lap that he's just set, only 0.2 of a second, less than 2/10 slower than the fastest lap of this race set by Barrichello on lap 27. We know the Ferraris are not pushing as hard as they could, but it does give you an indication that the Williams BMW is going very rapidly at the moment in the hands of the Colombian. We're looking at this battle, though, still between Heidfeld, Irvine and Ralf Schumacher, although Ralf Schumacher down a lap. He's in 16th and last position as a result of that earlier rear wing change.
Yes, and Ralph's lap time being dictated by the battle between Irvine and Heidfeld. That's the battle for 9th place. Heidfeld running in the 15s, Irvine fractionally quicker than that. So that's, look and see as the Ferraris come down the straight. Harold Frentzen caught between the lead 2 cars. We wait for Coulthard to come through. David Coulthard was 15.9 seconds. He comes through turn 13 now. There he is, Juan Pablo Montoya. The gap was 5.2 seconds, 4.4 seconds, 5 laps to go.
Wow, that is a huge amount of time that Montoya is making up. The Williams chassis really working well in this last stint as the fuel load has burnt off. Even though the tyres have now done some laps, it is working very effectively.
But Ben, he needs 6 laps to get the job done, and there are only 5 laps in this 73-lap Grand Prix remaining. Eddie Irvine gets it wrong in turn 1, and once old Ralf Schumacher takes advantage and goes through, Irvine attempting to find a way past Nick Heidfeld in turn 1, gets it wrong. So Ralf Schumacher said, OK, I've had enough fun and entertainment from you two guys. I'm going to go through. Eddie, you can sort your own problems out. Too far behind to make a serious attempt, but under braking, similar to what we saw in warm-up this morning. The Jaguar under extreme pressure, very unstable.
He's been saying all season long that the brakes on the Jaguar are not good enough. They've been working to try and improve it, but he's still not fully happy, and perhaps that was a little example of what he means. Now then, here come the Ferraris to complete yet another lap, still watching the gap between Coulthard and Montoya in the background. Coulthard flashes off the banking, and you'll see the Williams BMW not too far behind him.
So how much time will Montoya have taken out? 4.4 now, 4.1. Coulthard has decided, well, I don't want to let him get so close to me that he puts me or my team under pressure. So Coulthard upping his pace. Juan Pablo Montoya still pushing 100%.
That's why he has so many fans, because of the way that he attacks, because he is such a racer. But to beat this man, the ultimate racer, well, we've still got this battle. This is Heidfeld versus Ralf Schumacher. Ralf, again, not for position, remember, but he still wants to move up through the order if possible. And Heidfeld, if I were you, I'd just let him through. There's not much point in letting him and fighting it too much.
Well, I don't think he will do, because he's got a car between himself and Eddie Irvine. Irvine's not going to pass the Williams on merit or on speed, because, well, there's not very much that he's going to manage to do with Ralf Schumacher, so that's a great buffer. So Heidfeld will want to keep Ralf Schumacher behind him for that reason alone.
Our top 6, still the 2 Ferraris, then Coulthard, Montoya. It looks like Renault and BAR Honda will score points. Truly 2 points possible for 5th place, 1 point for Jacques Villeneuve in 6th place. It will be only the 2nd time this season that he's managed to finish in the points.
And that battle between Jaguar, Honda, Jordan Honda and BAR Honda, well, it looks like Jordan are the team that are losing, along with Jaguar, and BAR are the ones that are picking up. Fisichella's 23 seconds behind the Honda-powered BAR in his Honda-powered Jordan.
Tony George, president of Indianapolis Motor Speedway, must be happy with the day that has seen beautiful weather conditions. I'm sure he would have liked to have seen a bit of more of a challenge to the Ferraris, but what a display they have put on here this afternoon. He will be waving the checkered flag to end this race, and we're not too far away now, under 3 laps before we see that checkered flag, and Michael Schumacher continuing to break the records as he looks towards his 11th win of 2002. Here we go, just 2 laps to go now as he crosses the line. Barrichello has just relaxed really and let the gap settle down. It's around 3 seconds. Maybe they will close up together for a little formation finish.
Nevertheless, behind them there is still a race for that final podium position. Montoya was 3.8 seconds behind as Ralf Schumacher starts to have a little bit of a battle, an unnecessary one in reality, but maybe just alleviates the boredom that Ralf has had to deal with through that contact at the beginning of the Grand Prix.
Yes, that's still to be resolved, and who'd like to be in the Williams garage when both Montoya and Ralf Schumacher make it back?
I would. I want to see the war that's going to take place.
Okay, well, across the line goes Ralf, and these 2 German racers, Heidfeld and Ralf Schumacher, both trying to prove a point perhaps. There's still Eddie Irvine right behind, so as you say, Heidfeld fairly anxious to keep a buffer zone between himself and the Jaguar driver, despite the fact they're not actually batting over points. Montoya's close to within 3.3 seconds now of Coulthard, but with less than 2 laps to go, there really isn't time for him to do anything. And the 2 Ferraris are about to begin their last lap here in the United States Grand Prix.
Well, again, we've seen utter domination from this company from Maranello in northeast Italy, and what a fantastic job they're doing. 2 cars run reliably as clockwork, 2 drivers like a metronome. Michael Schumacher, Rubens Barrichello, neither has put a foot wrong. Ferrari engineers, team members run out to the pit wall, climb. This is not Helio Castroneves, these are the Ferrari engineers to welcome their 2 drivers, to thank them for a perfect afternoon's work.
Well, Montoya still battling, 2.4 seconds the gap between himself and Coulthard as they came around, but it is the two Ferraris that we are watching now as Michael Schumacher heads towards his 11th win this season. It will be the 14th win in 16 Grand Prix for Ferrari this year. What an astonishing record, beaten on just the two occasions, Malaysia by Ralf Schumacher and Williams, Monaco by David Coulthard and McLaren Mercedes. But the rest of this season has been an easy ride for the Ferrari drivers, and it's a 1-2 finish heading their way once again. Just the final banked turn here at Indianapolis for Ferrari to record their 8th 1-2 finish of the season. Superb stuff, and Michael moves up wide through the banking. They are going to cross the line virtually together as they cross the line, and let's just see who takes it. It's Barrichello. I think Barrichello has been taken the win. 0.0 on our timing screens, and it's almost a dead heat between the Ferraris as Michael Schumacher backs off across the line. It's a dominant performance from those two. Coulthard takes third place under mounting pressure from Montoya, but he ran out of time. Trulli will come home in 5th place for Renault, and Jacques Villeneuve will take 6th for BAR Honda.
Well, I'm not quite sure that was part of the game plan, but the timing and scoring has shown that Rubens Barrichello was, in fact, well, you're talking about millimetres. Man, you look at the rubber build-up on the racetrack. So Barrichello credited with winning this afternoon's US Grand Prix round 16 of the FIA Formula 1 World Championship. Here's this battle that's gone on for 5th and 6th place. Jacques Villeneuve will take 6th. Jarno Trulli, superb drive in the Renault, takes 5th.
Two great drives from him coming up of the last two Grand Prix, but Jacques Villeneuve, that point absolutely crucial for BAR Honda, of course, in that battle that's going on in the Constructors' Championship. That puts them even with Jordan. They're matched now on 7 points. Crucial stuff indeed. Renault picking up another 2 points. That doesn't make too much difference. They're fairly comfortably in 4th place in the Constructors' Championship. And there the official gap actually being shown as 0.010 for Barrichello to have taken the win.
Well, I mean, you couldn't measure it in such a fine amount of time. So Barrichello credited with winning. I think the winner today is Ferrari. A superb job as Rubens Barrichello's manager makes his way up onto the pit wall, and thanks the team for returning all the favours that Barrichello has done over his 3 seasons with the Ferrari team, but in particular this year, when on a couple of occasions, most notably in Austria, when what we saw little more than a sham, has now been fully paid back, and I suggest also with interest.
So Barrichello takes his 5th win of his career. Michael Schumacher taking 2nd place in the end after we thought he was going to take win number 11. He stays on 10 victories. Coulthard 3rd ahead of Montoya, Trulli and Villeneuve, our point scorers. Fisichella 7th ahead of Button, Heidfeld and Irvine. Not classified a number of drivers: Kimi Räikkönen, Alex Young, Mark Webber and Pedro de la Rosa, but overall good reliability from the Formula 1 cars, with 16 out of 20 cars making it to the end of the Grand Prix. Let's just take a look at the replay of the finish there. Michael Schumacher on the right, just backing off as he came off the banking, and look, definitely Barrichello just across the line first.
Yeah, you're talking about literally a couple or maybe 3 inches of difference between these two cars. Michael pulled up left, up high on the banking, let Rubens come alongside, and this literally is a grandstand finish. Barrichello was ahead literally by those minute amounts. Tony George, the president of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, flags off the two Ferrari drivers there, the famous row of bricks which are there as sort of celebration of the Brickyard. For many years the entire race track, the oval track, was paved in building bricks.
There we are, Barrichello and Schumacher, a 1-2 finish again. And Barrichello saying, "Did you back off to let me win?" And it looked like a nod from Michael there. He says, "Thank you very much."
Well, I'm not sure whether that's a jeer or a boo for the two Ferrari drivers. Maybe the crowd not happy with that kind of grandstanding finish, but we'll wait and hear from both drivers in the press conference.
Well, he's moving the camera out the way. Oh, I wish we could have heard what he was saying there.
Well, I think he's explaining to Rubens what it's all about. I'm not convinced that that was maybe the smartest thing that Ferrari could have done, but I think the fans would like to have seen Michael Schumacher win, because he was the man that did dominate this afternoon's US Grand Prix. Nevertheless, David Coulthard joins 2 Ferrari drivers, and they will very shortly go up. And just trying to hear, there's a bit of a jeer, they're not happy about it.
Yeah, well, it sounds like it may well have been Michael's decision to do that. Look at the Constructors' Championship. This is what's getting quite entertaining. Not so much the top 6 or top 5, but the top 6 and 7. BAR Honda, Jordan Honda now tied on points, on 7 points, worth a huge amount of money as to which position you finish in the Constructors' Championship, remember. So that's a battle that will go all the way to the final round at Suzuka in 2 weeks' time. But today, it's been another story of Ferrari. David Coulthard fought valiantly, and I have to say, a great effort from David Coulthard today, a beautifully driven race. He snatched that 3rd place in the dying seconds of qualifying yesterday. He was flawless in the race today.
Ben, there's a bit of confusion going on. I've just been listening to Ross Braun on one of our other channels, and being asked about whose decision it was to let Barrichello take the victory, and I'm not convinced that the pit lane and the pit wall were fully aware of what was taking place, and I think that, well, it may have been a very generous decision, as we've seen from other drivers in the past. Ayrton Senna, for example, many years ago with Gerhard Berger. So I'm not sure this was maybe quite as orchestrated as we might have initially thought, and maybe this was Michael's big thank you to Rubens.
Well, maybe. Of course, Rubens won last time out at Monza, and that means he now takes back-to-back victories. So the Brazilian national anthem, followed by the Italian anthem for Ferrari. And Rubens Barrichello can celebrate victory in the United States. Michael Schumacher won here in 2000, and Michael Schumacher let Rubens Barrichello win in 2002.
Rubens hoisted above his head. The Brazilian fans are happy. Maybe not everybody else is.
Well, Ferrari have certainly shown their class once again here today, but in many ways it would have been nice to have seen Michael take that top step. He deserved it. He drove well all day. Barrichello chased him hard, but at the crucial moments it seemed to be Schumacher who was ahead. He earned the pole position yesterday, but he decided to gift the victory, by the looks of things, to Rubens Barrichello, as perhaps a thank you for all the hard work that Rubens has done over the last few years. And David Coulthard, first time he's been on the podium since Manicourt, the French Grand Prix, some 4 Grand Prix ago, so this must feel good to him as well.
Yes, a very good weekend's work from David Coulthard and from McLaren Mercedes. They've been battling all year. The car does not always work well in qualifying. David particularly suffers, but now he's got his reward. He's got 4 points. He's back on the podium, and also just for an internal situation within the team, just consolidates the value that Coulthard brings to McLaren.
Barrichello celebrates. Of course, what this also does is confirm him as second place in the World Drivers' Championship. So Ferrari now have the full house, the World Drivers' Champion, the Constructors' Championship, and second in the Drivers' Championship. That's it, they've won everything you want.
Yeah, he's absolutely giddy with joy, and a couple of mouthfuls of champagne. The Mont Cordon Rouge champagne that is used on the winner's podium. No doubt will be straight into the old blood system, and look forward to hearing from Rubens, Michael and David Coulthard when they make their way into the press conferences, and hear maybe from both drivers, probably more from Michael than Rubens, what went on and that final corner and the run down to the flag.
Paolo Martinelli joining Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello up on the podium. The man responsible for the engine program at Ferrari and has done such a sterling service over the last couple of years, providing Ferrari with the motor that has certainly shown itself to be the match of Mercedes and BMW, and with the chassis that is the match of everybody else in the pit lane as well. That explains their dominance throughout this season. Rubens Barrichello absolutely over the moon. It's not often in recent years that we've only had one Brazilian competing in a Grand Prix, but it doesn't matter. The Brazilian has come through to win, and many Brazilian fans enjoying the moment. Rubens Barrichello then, the winner here at Indianapolis, and Ferrari having now taken 2 out of the 3 victories held on this Indianapolis Grand Prix circuit. It's always going to be tough to beat them. Last year McLaren managed it with Mika Hakkinen. This year David Coulthard fought, but they really had no answer for these two.
No, and again, just catching up with Patrick Head, the technical director of Williams, just discussing that incident in turn 1 between Ralf Schumacher and Juan Pablo Montoya, and his view was that it takes 2 drivers to have an accident, but it is wholly unacceptable to a team, particularly a team at the level of Williams BMW, for both drivers to get embroiled in an incident like that. And certainly the pace at which Montoya ran in the last third of this race clearly was plenty of pace to be on the podium with the 2 Ferrari drivers, and that loss of points to Williams because of that incident in turn 1, well, the drivers will know about it, and they will not forget about it.
Always the danger, though, perhaps, John, it's that contrasted philosophy between Ferrari and Williams. Williams like to have 2 drivers racing against each other, not applying team orders. Ferrari take completely the opposite view, perhaps to avoid exactly that kind of incident.
Well, I think what occurred was the difference between a rock and a hard place. Neither driver prepared to give way, and I think that within the Williams team they do breed this culture of drivers not being teammates in the normal sense. They do breed individuality, but they paid the penalty for that breeding.
Barrichello confirmed as the winner here at Indianapolis by 0.011 of a second. David Coulthard, 3rd place for McLaren Mercedes. Montoya, after an eventful race, especially in the early stages, then settled down, caught Coulthard towards the end but ran out of time, with Trulli running 5th and Villeneuve 6th. Fisichella frustrated out of the points despite a good race driven by him. Jenson Button, after a poor qualifying session yesterday, moving up to 8th. Heidfeld and Irvine completing the top 10. Takuma Sato getting another race finish under his belt. That'll give him some more confidence as he heads towards the final Grand Prix of the year on home territory at Suzuka. Panis, Frentzen, Salo, McNish and Ralf Schumacher, the other finishers to today's race. But as we said, a good level of reliability shown by the teams this weekend, with only 4 retirements during the course of that race, all mechanical retirements. Both Minardi sadly going out. Kimi Räikkönen with fairly major engine failure once again. He seems to have had that on several occasions. And De La Rosa with the most dramatic engine fire of the day, and a bit of a barbecue created by the Jaguar. Well, Ferrari adding yet another trophy to their massive collection that they have taken this year. Let's go and join the drivers now for the press conference.
What a fantastic finish to the third SAP United States Grand Prix at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, right on the line. Rubens Barrichello for Ferrari, Michael Schumacher second, and David Coulthard third. It's very hard to choreograph a finish like that, 0.01 of a second. Rubens, was that planned or was it a mistake?
No, I mean it wasn't planned. We never said at the beginning of the race. I guess we had a lot of fun in the race. Trying to be as fast as the other, and at the end, what can I say? I mean, just thank Michael very much, and thank the whole team for the support of the whole year. I mean, we get everything now. I mean, we're first, we're second, we won the constructors. I guess the crowd was happy. For me, it was kind of a very important. You know, the USA is such an important part of my life too, and you know, was very, very, very good. I got to the last corner. I didn't know what to do, and nothing has been said. I think, you know, Michael was just very kind to, you know, let us finish equally. And I guess I pointed a little bit in front, but it's, you know, what can we say? I mean, it's just, I think it's 0-0 now. We're just having a lot of fun together, working together, and having the car in front of everyone.
Well, it certainly sent the crowd wild. Now, in 2000, you were 4th overall. Last year, 3rd overall. This year, as of today, 2nd overall. You looking forward to 2003?
Very much. I mean, I'm a happy man inside of the team. We work well together. We work very well together with both test drivers. We work very well together, and I think we built a fantastic team. I mean, yeah, I'm looking forward, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be better or worse. We just have to enjoy life, and I'm enjoying very much.
Rubens, thanks very much. Michael, so it sounds as though it was your decision to try and get, was it a dead heat? Did you want to get the ultimate precise bit of driving? Or did you intend for Rubens just to get in front?
Maybe. I mean, we have so many records done this year. I think there is one, what is the closest finish? No, but in all honesty, I think we're such a great team together, Rubens and myself. We work very hard. We have a fantastic team, and we have always supported each other. And today, I thought it was a good opportunity to go equal over the line. We tried, and we failed by a little bit.
You didn't fail by much. That was the closest ever finish, 0.01 of a second. Now, you predicted yesterday that it would be a close race here, not just between yourself and Rubens, but also with perhaps McLaren and Williams. It seemed McLaren really raised their game today and got right up with you.
Yeah, that was expected, to be honest. And if you see the gap, it's just over about 10 seconds, not even less than 10 seconds in the end of the race, which shows that it was a tight race. I think the strategy we used, 2 stops in the end, was supposed to be by about 10 seconds faster. But would we have been stuck behind, then our strategy could have been a problem. So all in all, we did the right thing at the right time. We had the right car, and our guys did the right strategy for us.
Thank you very much, Michael. David, when you closed up at half distance, you had yet to come in for your only pit stop, but you were right behind the Ferraris. How did you reckon at that stage you might be able to get past them?
Well, there was a lot of traffic at that point. You know, it's incredible. I've never seen so many cars that have to be lapped. So in actual fact, I think it helped that the Ferraris were going through the traffic first of all, and that helped clear a little bit of space for me. But clearly, the fact that I was already a stop down, and realistically, it was a case of just trying not to lose too much time there and make sure that I could keep with the 3rd place.
Now, you're pressing hard right to the finish, but with Juan Pablo Montoya closing in on you, but you couldn't afford to back off because I would have thought the knowledge that Kimi Raikkonen's engine had blown must have made you wanted to lift your foot just that little bit off the pedal.
Well, in actual fact, we changed the strategy on the engine, and I was driving to protect the engine for the last sort of 20 laps of the race. So I think our pace could have been quicker, but you know, we weren't going to beat Ferrari, and it was just a question of finishing in front of Williams. So you know, just a precaution because of Kimi's problem, but nonetheless, I think we can take a bit of a boost from this weekend because we've taken a little step forward.
David, thanks very much. Back to you, Rubens. The crowd here has been absolutely fantastic, as you said. Next race, Suzuka in Japan. The crowd there also very excited, but rather different.
Well, it's a different place, but you know, for the Brazilians, I would say has always been quite good. I mean, Senna was there here in Japan, so you know, I have a lot of good Japanese tifosi, and it's going to be good to go there, and the car working fine. We hopefully we're going to have a very good race for Bridgestone, which I guess is the most important right now.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Rubens. Now Rubens and then Michael, if you'd like to talk in your own language. Thank you.
So, how did you make of that, John, with Michael Schumacher's reaction? Do you feel that he was trying to let Rubens take the win, or did he miscalculate?
Well, I think Michael's response to the question pretty much gives you the answer. I think Michael made a decision, and whereas back in Monza, where Rubens won, that was a win in a sense that was based on merit, because he went for a two-stop strategy, Michael went for one, and it worked to the advantage of Rubens. And once then completed their second round of stops, or Barrichello's second round of stops, it was status quo. Here, it looks to me like this was a personal gift from Michael to Rubens, and it's also maybe a statement of the working relationship that Michael and Rubens have, which is not often the case. We look at Williams right now, you've got Juan Pablo Montoya and Ralf Schumacher, and I'm sure you're going to have to get a referee between the pair of them to pull them apart. So to have that type of harmony in a team is very valuable indeed. I think it was very generous of Michael, because he won the race, for my opinion, on the road, and by right should have taken the victory. But, you know, we've seen this in the past, and certainly Ayrton Senna paid back Gerhard Berger with a Grand Prix victory, I think, in the Japanese Grand Prix. And Gerhard and Ayrton were also a partnership who worked really well together, a great balance of personalities, one the more quiet, withdrawn, the other the exuberant, flamboyant personality, worked very well together.
Yes, indeed. Well, Michael Schumacher perhaps deciding that is the right thing to do for Rubens Barrichello, not adding to his record of wins, but still another one to finish the 8th this year for Ferrari. And just the one more Grand Prix to go, of course, at Suzuka in a couple of weeks. But first of all, let's just think about this race, reflect on this race a little bit at Indianapolis. It is the third running at Indy. It's seen a good crowd. And let's just take a chance now to look back over some of the highlights of what we've seen here today. Well, the usual celebrations from the Colombian fans, but they didn't have a great deal to cheer about, I have to say, at the end of the day. Montoya getting into the points, but they would have loved to have seen him up on the podium. David Coulthard, of course, had out-qualified him by just a fraction yesterday.
But the race was really all about those two red Ferraris, but a very strong finish from David Coulthard in third place. Here's the start. Ferraris get away well. Ralf Schumacher makes a very good start. Juan Pablo Montoya is in fact beaten into turn one, and it was one lap later where it all went wrong.
Yes, that's right. The two Ferraris making the most of that front row starting position, and even the dirty side of the grid, not hurting Barrichello too much. Coulthard slotting in. Ralf Schumacher had moved ahead of Montoya, but the view showed Montoya trying to go around the outside. It was Ralf that lost control, and the two made contact.
But as that man Patrick Head said, it takes two cars to make an accident like that, and both drivers are equally guilty in the view of the team, and both drivers will pay that penalty some way or other.
Takuma Sato trying hard to outbrake into the first corner, making it a little bit too deep. But we saw other battles going on, and Mark Webber was enjoying himself in the early stages, wheel to wheel with Eddie Irvine.
There's Kimi Raikkonen losing out. This is the beginning of the end of his engine. It eventually would blow up, and he had no answer to the Williams of Juan Pablo Montoya.
I have to say, one of the most impressive things, perhaps, John, was how long Raikkonen went on in that Grand Prix before the engine let go, because he obviously had problems from an early stage.
Yes, but they may have made some alterations to the engine settings, which David Coulthard did, which in turn may have given the slight advantage in terms of economy, so he would have maybe been able to carry another lap, possibly 2 laps, with the engine slightly detuned for reliability's sake.
De La Rosa had his Jaguar expire, the Cosworth engine, and then he nearly had an accident going down the other side of the barrier. Thankfully he was okay. But the two Ferraris were very much in control on their two-stop strategy. Ralf Schumacher trying to make up ground after the rear wing change, but he was never really going to be in the equation, and still ended up last despite overtaking a few cars during the course of the race.
But this is what David Coulthard and other drivers
in the podium were mentioning there was so much traffic everywhere around the racetrack. They found traffic, a very busy racetrack all weekend. Certainly this afternoon's Grand Prix, one of the busiest I've seen.
This was Alex Young's engine failure. The two Ferraris made their second pit stops, and once again Michael Schumacher emerged ahead, and it was soon clear that they had a very healthy lead over David Coulthard running third. It was Coulthard's teammate Raikkonen who didn't last the distance.
No, the inevitable happened. The engine had been under power, something going wrong. The team were aware of it. They just bandaged it as best they could. But there you can see some of the technology that exists on the pit wall. All the teams, they can tell precisely where their car is on a lap.
Villeneuve picking up the final point today. Good news for David Richards and the BAR Honda team. Only the second time that he's managed to get into the points this year. Last time out it was Panis, this time it was Villeneuve. But Montoya attacked in the closing laps, trying to close up the gap to Coulthard, as Irvine made a little error under braking as he tried to attack Nick Heidfeld. Up front, Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello were heading for victory, and as the Ferrari team came out to celebrate, Michael Schumacher decided to back off a little bit more, and as they headed round the last corner, he would surprise Barrichello even further.
And Eddie Irvine surprises us with that spin rather harmlessly at the end of the race, but Tony George waves the flag, and Barrichello wins by 1/100th of a second over his teammate, and for some, surely the Brazilians' joy as Barrichello drives his car onto this very impressive podium, not just for the drivers but also for the car raised up above the ground to be seen by well, I don't know how many tens or maybe hundreds of thousands of people here watching this Grand Prix from the famous Indy bleachers.
And Schumacher gifting the victory to Rubens Barrichello, the Brazilian adding another Grand Prix win to his tally after winning at Monza. He can now add another classic name, Indianapolis, to his record. And he certainly enjoyed that moment. Coulthard joining them on the podium, third place for McLaren Mercedes. So that was a look back at this race, the American Grand Prix. Just one more Grand Prix to go now in 2 weeks' time, and everybody will be packing the cars away. They'll be transported to Japan, where the work and the preparation on the cars will have to take place actually in Japan at Suzuka to get them ready for the race.
Yes, so it's a very busy time for the teams. They've now got to strip the cars down. They will go on to pallets. They'll be shipped over in a fleet of 747s. They'll fly into Japan, and then the whole work of building up the pits, the garages the teams use, garages are all dressed in a particular style, and behind that all the computing that goes into Formula One cars, that also will be have to be put into place. So a very busy next 8 to 10 days for the teams, and while some may get the chance to go off and lie on a beach somewhere warm or tropical, or the engineers themselves, well, they'll be lucky to get a couple of days break.
Anthony Davidson has been doing some testing recently again for BAR Honda, and has attended the Grand Prix this weekend, still looking for any opportunities next year. I don't think there'll be any Formula One opportunities still available, but maybe we'll see him racing in the United States next year in either Champ Cars or perhaps in the IRL series. Well, conditions have remained beautiful throughout today. Could not have been more perfect, the weather conditions we've enjoyed. Martin Whitmarsh must be fairly happy with David Coulthard's performance. They could not have expected to have beaten Ferrari. They did the next best thing, finished behind the Ferrari. There was no poor reliability to help them, but they've still come away with a decent result from America. Talking to Paul Stewart. Perhaps everybody trying to work out what they need to do to beat those Ferraris.
Well, McLaren and Mercedes-Benz have got a long winter ahead of them, and a lot of work will be required on every aspect of this car, chassis, engine and gearbox assembly, because it is not one thing that's going to transform a team from being third in a Grand Prix to winning a Grand Prix. Ferrari have moved the envelope so far, so rapidly, that this game of catch-up is going to be very difficult. And we saw that Ferrari could start the season with last year's car. They ran the first two races. Michael then had the 2002 Ferrari in Brazil, and that immediately was a further step beyond where last year's car was. Talk that McLaren may do something similar to enable themselves to get enough testing with their 2003 Challenger without the pressure of having to go racing with a car that may be slightly underdeveloped, but principally maybe not fully reliable.
No, quite a lot of the 2003 machinery now beginning to make its first appearances. Renault getting their car out by all accounts, and Honda having their next year's engine running on the test beds, I gather.
Yes, well, the testing bans that occur, teams now have found, particularly after this last winter, that the pressure from the beginning of January up until, well, virtually the third week of February, to try and get in that space of 6 to 7 weeks testing that you would do over 3 months was just an incredible strain on both manpower and on machinery. So what they're now doing is bringing forward the lead times to ensure that they can get those cars running before the testing ban comes in. Just look at the back of Pedro de la Rosa's engine cover on his Jaguar. That was quite a sharp fire. Didn't last very long, but nonetheless still enough to char and burn some of the bodywork.
Yes, and the fire extinguishant on it as well, having a fairly nasty effect. So I should think they're probably, I don't know if they're going to bin that one or not. Of course, often the cars are completely repainted, aren't they, between Grand Prix, because if you keep adding paint layers, it adds more weight.
Yes, it does, and I would think that one will probably be disposed to one of the biffer bins, or maybe some very lucky fan of Jaguar may find themselves the recipient of Pedro de la Rosa's cover.
Jacques Villeneuve, good, solid performance from Villeneuve this weekend. He's done the job for the team, and they can be pleased with that effort. A 6th place. Jock Clear, his engineer on the right, still talking about what was happening in the race, and that's good to see that they, they're still going over what's happened. Still the Grand Prix in 2 weeks' time. They might be able to take advantage of little notes now.
Yes, but I mean, teams will frequently debrief after a Grand Prix, because the best time to do it is when the driver's mind is still fresh and memories of what occurred. As we look at Craig Pollock, who is still a shareholder in the BAR team, but principally is the manager of Jacques Villeneuve, and one might think, well, was there ever a conflict of interest in that relationship?
Well, no conflict anymore, with David Richards in charge, and very much in charge of BAR Honda. It doesn't look as though we're going to get a name change. We thought that BAR might be changing their name for next year. That's all gone a bit quiet, and perhaps we'll look beyond next year before we see a name change.
Yes, one of the suggestions has been to christen the team or rebrand the team as Team Lotus, and I have to say I am 100% against that. I think the name Lotus should be allowed to stay where it is, and that's in the history books.
Well, we'll have to see what happens. It may not be Team Lotus, but it may be something a little different. Perhaps it will be rebranded more strongly Honda. But, as I say, that's all gone a little quiet for now. Fastest lap classification, Barrichello with that fastest lap. So not only did he get the race win, he did actually get the fastest lap as well. Michael Schumacher having to settle for 2nd fastest lap. Montoya, good effort. And then on down the list, you can see that Jenson Button, 12th fastest lap there in the Renault. He'll have seen his teammates get into the points. Button himself, unfortunately, didn't manage to do it this time. And he'll hope to do something special in the last Grand Prix for Renault in 2 weeks' time before he moves over to BAR Honda to join Jacques Villeneuve.
Well, Nick Heidfeld, use of the label out, he's the team physio and dietitian, and all these drivers they all look fairly fit. It's not a particularly demanding race from a physical or a mental concentration standpoint. Jacques Villeneuve, we saw standing talking to his engineer Jock Clare and to David Richards, and Rubens Barrichello, Michael Schumacher and David Coulthard, all looking remarkably fresh, particularly considering the pace that Barrichello and Michael Schumacher were running at in the opening laps of this Grand Prix. I mean, that was a real battle for position, and well, it's the period now when everybody just relaxes to get the cans of beer, of soft drinks out. There we see some of the Ferrari fans. Huge fan base for Ferrari. Many Ferraris will have been driven here by their owners. Cherished cars, historic cars, even the latest models.
2 weeks' time, then Suzuka, one of the best Formula One tracks in the world. It's one of the drivers' favourites as well. It has a combination of fast corners that you only get at 1 or 2 circuits nowadays. It is, I have to say, a Michael Schumacher track. He has an astonishing record there, both in pole positions and in victories. He won there last year. He is awesome to watch. I actually have to say I'm really looking forward to watching Schumacher in that Ferrari at Suzuka. That will be something well worth watching.
Yes, I mean, I think that there's going to be a Ferrari fest as well as a Bridgestone fest in Suzuka, because the nature of the Suzuka circuit is such that it really does play to the strengths of the Ferraris. We see Gilles de Ferran and Matt Bishop of one of the British Motor Racing magazines. Gilles got a wrist injury, sadly wasn't able to take part in the final round of the IRL and lost a chance to potentially become a champion in his first year in IRL and Team Penske.
Yes, and a chance to become a 3-time IndyCar champion, of course, twice winner of the kart series, but sadly he wasn't able to challenge for that, and Sam Hornish became back-to-back champion in the IRL championship. But good to see Gilles there. He, of course, won't be going to Japan to go and watch his mate David Coulthard. He'll be pretty happy, I should think, with David's performance. The two of them were teammates in some of the junior formulae at Paul Stewart Racing, indeed. So he'll be pleased to have seen David score that 3rd place here today. But as you say, John, Ferrari are going to be in great shape at Suzuka with Bridgestone tyres, looking to show off their performances this year.
Well, there's a few fans from home, and they're proudly displaying the flag as the day begins to wind down, and activities will focus more on a leisure nature, probably with the right arm going frequently up to the mouth and quenching a lot of thirst. It was a very beautiful day here in Indianapolis. Everybody preparing to just chill out a little bit.
Well, the Ferrari fans have plenty to celebrate, of course, and they're continuing to break records every Grand Prix. I wonder what will happen next time. Well, you'll be able to watch all of the coverage with us on F1 Digital Plus throughout the free practice sessions, but you'll have to set your alarm clock for some pretty inhospitable hours. But if you want to watch it all, you can do it with us here on F1 Digital Plus. Thanks for joining us this weekend, and our coverage from Indianapolis in 2 weeks' time, the last Grand Prix from Suzuka. From Ben Edwards and John Watson, until then, goodbye.
Oh, the star of this race, at least with the locals, has gone and put his foot in it.
Yeah, and we were just saying, weren't we, at the start, how they were getting on so well. Now it's back to square one, if not worse. We're just getting a replay here. You can see Ralph diving down the inside. And I would say that that was probably, you know, I don't think you could actually say that it was Juan Pablo's fault entirely, because Ralph had certainly made the commitment to go down the inside and left himself a narrow line to make it.
OK, Peter Windsor is at the Williams pit. Maybe he's had a word with Patrick Head, but I sincerely think not.
No, I think Patrick Head's the last person that anyone would want to go near right now. But it was only yesterday that we were hearing that Williams actually have written agreements with their drivers that they do not overtake one another until they're given instructions to do so. And I would be very surprised if Juan Pablo was given that instruction on that opening lap. So obviously mayhem here, terrible opening lap for Williams BMW. But one has to say, one has to respect Frank. He's always said he wants his two drivers to race at both races, and that's what Williams have a history of doing, as I'm sure Damon would bear out.
Ralph Schumacher and Juan Pablo Montoya. Well, I've never ever smiled at an incident like that, because as soon as you do, then inevitably the gremlins strike your own team. But obviously when it's between two teammates, it's always particularly frustrating for the owner. So I'm sure Frank's not a happy bunny at the moment.
What's your take on the race at the moment? Would you assume the two Ferraris are on lighter fuel than you?
It's not a particularly weight-sensitive circuit, but certainly fuel plays a role, and depends on when they're planning to stop, what level of tyre degradation they've got. Too early to predict the outcome of the race. But they've been strong for most of the season. There's no reason why they shouldn't be strong here, but we're giving a hard race.
But do you think that the pace the Ferraris are running would be a light fuel pace?
I think we're surprised at the lack of pace. I know they're much quicker than us, but we're not as far off as we thought we'd be. And as I said, it's really the strategy that's going to determine the outcome of the race.
Thanks very much, Ron. Patrick, I guess that's every team's own worst nightmare. What was it like from your point of view?
Well, it's obviously very disappointing, because Ralph's out of it and Juan's position has been damaged.
Do you have any sort of strategy, any sort of team orders that should have been in place at that moment? I mean, are they allowed to race from the start at Williams?
Yeah, they're allowed to race, but it's a fundamental requirement that they don't drive into their teammate. Thank you very much.
Ron, what's the latest on Kimi's problem?
We've telemetry to power and improved the performance of the cylinder, but as you can see, you can clearly see doing a pretty good job on 9 and a bit cylinders.
Any problems with the transmission at all?
No, nothing, no problem.
Thank you very much. Ross, fantastic result. Tell us about the planning that went into that finish.
There wasn't any. It was that was the drivers. So you need to speak to them about it.
Did that take you as much by surprise as it did us?
A fair bit, yes.
What actually was the instruction at the end there?
Well, they raced hard up until 10-15 laps from the end, and we just asked them to turn the engines down because it didn't look as though one could take the other. They were so closely matched. Straight line speeds were the same, lap times were the same, so we just held position some distance from the end. They wanted to look after the car. They'd had their race up until then. It was flat out until that point.
Do you think Michael actually intended to let Rubens win that race?
You need to talk to him.
What did he say on the radio then?
We'll come back to you on that.
Thank you very much, Ross. Obviously the dust hasn't entirely settled yet, but first of all, can you tell us why Juan Pablo came in relatively early compared with McLaren on that one-stop strategy?
We don't know. We had enough fuel to last much longer. He was scheduled to pit stop about the same time as Ralph, so he came in without getting the command from us, so we've got to understand why that occurred.
Had he been complaining about anything in the car since that shunt with Ralph?
No.
He was very quick at the end there.
Well, he was, but it was too late, so, didn't... he had a car that could have finished third today, so and we didn't achieve that, so it's disappointing.
Final thoughts on that collision between the two drivers?
Well, it takes two to make an accident, and it's a completely unacceptable situation for a team, and certainly Frank and I consider it completely unacceptable, but ultimately the drivers are the people conducting their cars on the circuit, but we'll be having some pretty serious talk with them before the next race.
Thank you very much, Patrick.
If I was a Williams driver, I'd been on my way to the airport by now.
Yes, I'd already left, I think. You're too right. What was it, hairy spiders or something that was Patrick's line?
No, it was something spiders, effing spiders, if you really want to know. He's caught, he just hit the nail on the head. He's caught on the horns of this dilemma. You've got teams, they're supposed to race as teammates, and yet they're supposed to race. How are they supposed to deal with this? How are racing drivers supposed to deal with this situation? They know that they're competing against every driver there. They're not just competing against the guys outside their team. And this is where Formula One gets itself in a muddle. And it really needs to sort it out.
It has too many... The trouble is Formula One has, like a lot of sports now, has too many masters. Television, sponsors, everything else. The political correctness aspect to the sport quite often overtakes the sports side of the sport, and that's the trouble you get here, is that obviously you don't want two drivers from the same team knocking each other out, but then again they're racing, and they were racing viably for a very good position, and it was unfortunate that was the outcome, but quite often you get a great race between teammates, and it gives us a spectacle, not a chance for what is going to be a very severe dressing down in the debriefing room anytime now.
If you'd both decided you were going to try and cross the line together and you hadn't told your team boss or anybody else, how difficult is it to orchestrate such a manoeuvre?
It's obviously much more difficult than they anticipated. But I think there's an enormous amount of egg going around on people's faces. What are they playing at? Trying to... It wasn't what was meant to happen. Michael Schumacher won that race. I don't think Rubens was on his pace. They did have sort of good ding-dong, but I mean, Michael should have crossed. They should have had a formation finish, and it went a bit wrong.
I want to know the real story. I want to know who was meant to win that race, and because it obviously all went completely wrong at the end, and nobody's being absolutely straight about it. Ross was obviously keen to say something, but wanted to wait till he talked to the drivers first. But whatever. They finished like that, and we're left with egg on our face.
Never mind. Jarno truly had a great race. Jarno joins us live now. Congratulations, 5th place, Jarno. You seem to be finishing the season in some style.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm doing a very good job. I'm very happy because we're working well with the team, getting better and better with the car, with the tires, and with everybody. So at the moment, I'm really enjoying driving. and also it's important to finish races because doing that I'm scoring points.
Jana, Damon, you had some exciting racing there with Jacques. So, I mean, can you tell us any of the best moments?
Well, I was playing like with him because I knew that he was on two-stop strategy, and we have a slightly different strategy. We were on one stop, but a little bit different. You have seen probably that we stopped slightly earlier. We refueled, we topped up to the end, and then we finished the race. So I didn't want to lose any time keeping him behind me. I was just trying to, follow him with the slipstream, gain some time on the straight, try to keep up with him, and then I knew that it was going for two stops.
Hi Jarno, Jeremy Hart here. We've been talking obviously about the Ferrari situation here in the studio, but we saw some great overtaking manoeuvres, lots of close racing, especially with you. Why do you think it suddenly happened here, just when Formula One needed it, that there was so much close racing and so much overtaking?
Well, basically because we got such a long straight here, so we can really use the toe to get closer to the other car. This is the main thing.
Okay,
and
Jarno,
also because we are.
I was going to say, I didn't want to interrupt you. I just want to say thanks very much, congratulations, and maybe we'll see you on the podium in a couple of weeks' time.
I hope so. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, it was, as Jeremy's been saying, plenty of overtaking, plenty to enjoy about that race. Let's look back on the highlights. So those are the top three. According to Patrick Head, Juan Pablo Montoya should have been amongst the top three, but he wasn't. He's talking now to Nick.
Juan Pablo, a lot of work, 4th place.
Yeah, I think for a 4th place is way too much work. But, you got to keep driving and pushing.
What happened in that second lap incident with Ralph?
I don't know, I went to pass him and he spun and I think when he spun or something, I don't know, couldn't really see what end of him hit me, just pushed me off the track.
No damage to your car though?
Well, I felt a bit weird at the beginning, but then I got used to it.
You were very, very quick at the end. Why was that?
Well, the car was quick. The car was quick all weekend. And it's just very disappointing that, we screwed the race completely as teammates, And then we made a big mistake. I saw the sign, I thought it was designed to come in, and I came in and it wasn't the time yet. And that really screwed the race up.
Well done with 3 points, thanks.
Jacques Villeneuve got a point. He's talking now to Peter.
Jack, great race, congratulations.
Thank you.
Tell us about the car, the grip, the balance. You were a bit worried about it yesterday.
I was very worried, and I was very worried about it after the warm-up as well. But we made a few changes before the race, and the car worked well. It was just tough for every time for the first 6 or 10 laps at the start after a pit stop, and then once the fuel got down, the tires actually got better. So it was easy to do some quick laps.
Did the track pick up grip? Was that part of the factor?
Well, the track picked up a little bit of grip, but even after the second pit stop, when the track already had picked up grip, for the first 10 laps after the pit stop, the car was hard to drive. So I think it was just a matter of putting laps on the tires.
Great. Thank you very much.
Jacques Villeneuve there, happy with a point, but he's a former world champion, or a world champion like yourself. I mean, how can he be happy with a point when you're used to winning the championship?
It's all relative. I mean, a point is almost a victory for a team like BAR at the moment. It is tough to get points, for the rest of the field. But as we can see, that the domain of the top three and winning races seems to be is occupied and seems to be booked, fully booked now for years by Ferrari, McLaren and Williams.
You said something off camera a while ago about letting Ferrari get on with what they want to do, dead heats, letting the other bloke win, and just watching the racing below them.
Yeah, for me, the race was for 3rd place here, and I think we saw quite a few times during the race some fantastic close battles for that. It was Coulthard, it was Montoya, we saw Trulli up there, we saw Villeneuve up there, and that 3rd place they were fighting for as hard as if it was 1st place. And I think for a lot of them, until they manage to get closer to Ferrari, that's the best they can hope for. And I think that's a sad sort of view on F1 at the moment, but it's realistic, is that Ferrari is so far ahead and they can do whatever they want, they can play the games. And then you see Rubens Barrichello in the press conference thanking Michael for letting him finish late. It's outrageous. Get a grip, man.
Do you think there will be repercussions? I mean, not many people seem to have seized upon this as I want to, because, like I say, the questions before the race were, are you going to let them race? and they're racing drivers, aren't they? And then they go and do that.
Unfortunately, they have an embarrassment of riches at the moment. They have got a fantastic car. They're able to trounce the opposition. They have got a problem in that, how far do they go? I mean, they could have lapped the field probably twice, which is. But at least if they let them race, we may have had a genuine race. I mean, I think Rubens would have got beaten today, but nevertheless, it's better, I think, for Michael to finish sort of 15 seconds up the road and actually show how brilliant he is, than to have a kind of fiasco ending.
Rubens did race well today. I don't want to take that away from him because he got very, very close, but the end was just a farce.
There you are. So, Indianapolis is awash with red. Can they go on to beat the record for wins in a season? Sky Sports 1 has a preview at 5 o'clock on Thursday, the 10th of October. Practice sessions 1 and 2 from Japan are at 2:30 on Friday morning. Yeah, sorry about that. On Saturday, our practice starts just after midnight, with qualifying at 4:30 in the morning. Never mind, you can sleep in during the day. Then on Sunday morning, warm-up is at 1:30 a.m, followed by the race at 5:30. A brisk walk afterwards should set you up for the rest of the day. So it only remains for me to thank Jeremy Hart and Damon Hill and to congratulate Rubens Barrichello, or I'm not quite sure that I should congratulate him because I think Michael won the race but just cocked it up right at the end. Whatever, as is always the case nowadays, Ferrari will be going on tonight to have a good time.
It's another win for Rubens, but was that entirely by design?
Not my design, anyway.
Talk us through what happened on that last lap. They were doing a finish for the cameras, a nice cross the lap together, cross the line together.
I guess so. I assume Michael will give us an explanation in the press conference. So, but no, it wasn't something we discussed. So the plan was to race as hard and as long as we could. And at some point at the end, if it became clear to us that either driver could overtake the other, we'd turn the engines down, which is what we did. So they raced very hard up until after the second pit stops. And then they were told to turn the engines down. They were a little bit cautious at the beginning of each stint because we knew the tyres could blister today, so the first 10 laps of each stint they had to control their pace, and then the remainder of the stint they were off the leash, as it were. And they were pretty evenly matched there, and Michael was pushing very hard, Rubens was pushing very hard. So, but when they're that evenly matched and the cars are the same, I don't think one's going to overtake the other. And you saw what happened with Ralph and Juan Pablo. Two cars the same, two good drivers, it's very difficult.
So your intention was for Michael to win the race. 0.0 seconds as they cross the line. He might not know where the line is.
Yeah, you need to talk to him, honestly, because I'm not quite sure where it went through his mind.
Looks like you don't care either way.
Our finish to the United States Grand Prix. It is another Ferrari 1-2. Let me just confirm it for you. They don't care in which order. It's Barrichello first at the last, then Michael Schumacher. Great drive from David Coulthard, Montoya fourth, Trulli fifth. Jacques Villeneuve making his point for British American Racing. Tony Jardine, what did you make of that last few inches, really?
I think it's a great shame, to be very honest. I think if you look at come through turn 13, Michael had slowed down somewhat, and Rubens was right behind thinking, what's going on? And obviously pulled alongside for this photo finish that perhaps Michael thought he was trying to recreate, whether he knew where the line was or not. After a long, hard race with the gloves off for the first time they've been able to race, you have a confusing result for the general public. What is going on? Who has won? And it's back down to manipulation.
Did they make a mistake here, Mark? Did they get the wrong finishing line? And of all the places to do it, fancy doing it here?
Doing it in the US market, I mean, this is not the place to do that kind of deal. I really am. I'm sitting there, I'm bemused, confused, along with another 180,000 people out there at this point.
Was it another bit of payback for Austria from Michael Schumacher, or was it a genuine mistake?
It could well have been, but I mean, the thing is, you have a duty to general sport. What Jean Todt has said throughout the season is that we are not going to race each other until the championship is won, first and foremost. It's up to the others to catch us up and race. You must respect our decision. Now for once to say, right, off you go and race. We have a great race, a great spectacle, which we've thoroughly enjoyed. And then at the finish, we have this staged finish, which we don't like.
David Coulthard, a last word from you on him. He's got up there on the podium.
I think he's had a fantastic weekend. He's been very solid, drove a great race there. Just unfortunately, he doesn't have a car underneath him to match the Ferraris, but, you know,
we've had a great spectacle, and our reaction here says it all. We're all a bit flat after a terrific spectacle of an American Grand Prix.
Yeah, I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Thanks for the pictures, Bernie, by the way.
OK, thanks to you both. Well, of course, there's been much...
Well, Patrick, honestly, I didn't understand what happened between the two drivers from your point of view.
Well, I couldn't make any comment about the incident, but it's just completely unacceptable to have two drivers within a team drive into each other, and it's really not too important whose fault it was. It's completely unacceptable, and certainly we'll be taking serious steps to ensure that they understand that that is not appreciated.
So how can you avoid situations like this? What do you think? You have a lot of experience with strong drivers.
Well, I mean, it's once the race starts, it's with the drivers, but they have to be more mature than that.
Have you seen it already in the slow motion or something? What is your opinion? Whose fault?
I really not into looking at it and saying whose fault it is, but between the two of it takes two to make an accident.
Coming to the positive things, second in the Constructors' Championship?
Yeah, that's fairly positive, but we had a car that could have beaten McLaren today with both of our cars, and Juan's pit stop, he came in many laps too early for his pit stop for no reason. It's just lack of discipline, and we've got to make sure that these sort of things are put right.
So you will have a word with both of them?
Probably not here. You know, everybody's going to be very heated, but before Japan we'll certainly be talking.
Thank you very much.
Good, thanks.
So Ruby, was it one of your strangest victories?
Well, I guess, I mean, it's one of the closest. I mean, at the end we were the closest finishes, but it's been one of the closest races where we push each other so hard, and I had a better car at the start of the second stint and pushed him really hard. I went for it. I was trying to overtake, couldn't do it, and you know, at the end of the day, I was very surprised that he backed off. But that's, I think, we could say that that's a payback from Austria. If you just think that I won in Austria and he won in Indy, that's fine with 0-0.
Yeah, fine. At the end now, second in the World Championship. Does it mean a lot for you?
Sorry?
Second in the World Championship at the end?
Yeah, I mean, it's great. I mean, I had a fourth, I had a third, now I'm second.
So next year?
Who knows? I mean, try hard.
Michael already had his hand out of the cockpit. Gehen wir mal rüber zum David, ja? Here we go. David, a big step forward just for today or in general?
I think we have taken a step forward from the Barcelona test last week and carried it into this weekend. Obviously, it's still a long way to where Ferrari are, but I think we can carry it into Suzuka.
I mean, to be third after the Ferrari, was it some kind of your personal victory today?
Yeah, I think it's a good result, good weekend for me, so I'll go home happy.
So can we expect a closer fight for Japan now?
Yeah, I think that Williams will be strong in Japan, and it really depends on tyres as to whether we're up there with Ferrari or not.
Thanks. John, another surprise, but no surprise, a double victory, but how it came. What did you think when you see your both drivers crossing the line?
You know, really, I think the thing which just matter is to see two Ferrari being on the first line and finishing both together. And you know, it doesn't change on one way or on the other one, whether it's Rubens, whether it's Michael. What does really matter is it's Ferrari, you know. And then definitely both drivers wanted to finish at the same time, and the way it did finish, but that's just outstanding. That's all we can say.
At the end, you achieved everything in this season. Constructors, drivers, you have a 1-2 at the end. So is there any request left now?
I mean, definitely we want to try to win the last race. You know, Ferrari has beaten all the record. After 16 Grand Prix, has passed 200 points, which has never happened. And it's fantastic domination. That's the result of very hard work, fantastic team, fantastic partners. I think, I mean, Bridgestone has given us fantastic support. And I mean, we can be proud of all that. And it's no point to say how motivated we are for the future. And I mean, we are just having a fantastic pair all together.
Thank you very much.
Good job, mate. Keep this up. Push like fuck now. This is the time. This is what we discussed. Push like fuck.
Norbert Haug, it's turning into a fantastic race with David Coulthard right up with the Ferraris.
Yeah, it's a shame that we could not take them at a pit stop. It was very close, but you know, sometimes due to traffic. But anyway, it's still not looking that bad, and I think we have quite a good strategy. Ferraris probably on 2 stops. I don't know, maybe not. And then we see what we can do. But so far, I think it's quite an interesting race.
Now, what about Kimi Räikkönen? His engine, or maybe his exhaust, sounds a bit sick.
Yes, a spark plug failed, which is a shame. Our suppliers need to do a better job there. But he's impressively fast with 9 cylinders.
Well done, thank you.
Switch 1, position 3. The car is undrivable. When I turn the steering right, I can't turn it. It's solid.
Also, a disappointing end to the weekend. Both cars retiring quite close to them. What were the problems?
Alex's was engine, which I think is pretty obvious, and Mark's was a power steering component failure, which we've not had before. Not a dangerous one, but nevertheless one that stopped him from continuing on today.
Quite nice to see you running quite easily with the Jags and the Toyotas.
Yeah, I really feel for Alex. He's probably driving the best race of the year. I mean, he is on with the chance of genuinely having a couple of, perhaps a Toyota and a Jaguar behind him. Really sad, actually. He's put in a good effort all weekend.
Cool, bad luck, thank you.
Mario Ilian, we've just seen Kimi Räikkönen engine blow. Is that, do you reckon, because he was running with 9 cylinders for most of the race?
Yeah, we had very early on a misfire. And obviously that doesn't help. He probably washed out the cylinder and got the failure.
Is there anything you can do with the telemetry to try and change the engine so that would stop it blowing?
Not really. I mean, we tried to do a few things, but it didn't cure the problem.
Tough luck. Thank you. Tony George, you're about to go and wave the flag, I believe, at the end of the 3rd American Grand Prix here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Good race?
Yes, it was. I thought the McLarens were going to give them a battle there for a while, but it looks like getting ready to wave the flag on the 3rd run, and we're very pleased with the way of that.
Now, again, you've attracted a massive crowd. All the drivers on the grid and the team owners said what a fantastic feeling it is here. You've certainly drummed up quite an atmosphere.
Well, it is nice. It's nice to see so many people supporting it, and we look forward to building on this foundation for the future.
It looks fun to me. Thanks, Tony.
Ron Dennis walked off the wall quite quickly there. Disappointed with today?
I am actually, because I had to look after the car for the last 40 laps. We had a bit of a problem, so we couldn't really push. An opportunity missed.
Thanks a lot. Nick Heifeld able to laugh, but a very difficult race there, it seemed.
Yeah, in the beginning it looked quite good, lying on 8th position. Obviously I hoped that everybody was on a 2-stop race, as we were. Unfortunately, a couple of cars were on a 1-stop. And then just before the 2nd pit stop, which we made a bit earlier than we planned, due to the 1-stoppers, the car didn't behave as good as in the beginning. I think we have a little problem in the front, mechanically. but would have been tough to go on the points anyway.
It seemed like a very hard race. Was it one of the more difficult of the year?
No, because the circuit is not so demanding.
Well, anyway, thank you. Heinz-Harald Frentzen, 73 laps in a car that didn't fit. How was it?
Okay, I set the car up a little bit in too much oversteer, and I think it was a lack of experience, I have to say, with this car. The oversteer caused me big trouble on the rear tires, so I had to come in early, and I couldn't attack really in that whole race.
Bit of a hairy incident with Takuma Sato as well, about 10 laps, 20 laps in.
Yeah, at that moment I got really big trouble with my balance, and well, it was a little bit of a kamikaze, I have to say. I had to open the corner quite heavily, but that's happened with young drivers. Yeah.
Heinz, thanks a lot. Flavio Briatore, you tried the same strategy as Monza and it worked again, more points.
Yeah, I think so. It's only one strategy is possible doing at this time. But in the end, paid, and we had 2 more points. I'm sure we finished 4th in the championship. At this point, this was our target.
Thank you very much. Olivier Panis, I suppose you had a good warm-up, and that's it for the weekend, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's true, but you know, some weekend is like this. But I'm really happy for Jacques and for the team. I mean, 1 point for us is very important. And from my point of view, I mean, my automatic start doesn't work and, during the start. It's bad luck. And after that, I need to overtake some car. It's not easy because we have different strategy. But after that, I manage the best if possible. And my second set of the tires, I have a big blister. It's not easy to manage, but in the end, the 2 cars finish the race. It's a positive point, and the point for Jacques is good.
Are you looking forward to Suzuka?
Definitely.
Thanks a lot. Jenson Button, a very tough race. You were battling with cars the whole time, but unfortunately no points at the end of it.
No, 8th isn't best ever, but you know, everyone was really reliable this race, and it makes it very difficult to score points from 14th. Also, I got pushed off on turn 2 by Giancarlo, which on the first lap, which didn't really help. Lost a couple of places there, and yeah, so we were just a bit unlucky with our pit stop, but otherwise we seemed to be relatively quick. Just didn't have the position really.
Lots of following. It seemed quite hard to actually make that final pass on the other guys.
Yeah, it's so difficult to get past. I mean, I think we were running lower wing than most, so we had a bit more straight line speed. But you lose so much coming onto the straight where they accelerate and pull away. It's just really, really difficult.
Bad luck. Thanks a lot.
Cheers.
Raikkonen, how quick did you know there was something wrong with your engine?
It was 10 laps in the race, or 12 or something, and the engine started misfiring, and I was losing just speed on the straight a lot, and they didn't have chance to fix it from the pit. And
thanks a lot. Cheers.
only man to go out of the race so far. Pedro, a bit of a fiery end to your Grand Prix. Was that some kind of engine problem?
No, the engine was fine. I lost drive, stuck in 5th gear, then I had a misfire the gearbox. I think it was the transmission, not the engine.
What happened when you got out of the car?
The marshals got me overexcited. They told me just to jump out of the circuit. I jumped and there was a river, so I just went into the river. I mean, they should have told me, you know. But anyway, I was just holding in. I was just staying in the race. We had a very late stop. I was fully brimmed, and I was just waiting for the race to come to me. So it was a shame because I think we were on quite a good strategy for our car today.
Well, at least that water cooled you down.
A little bit too much downforce. We're getting held up a lot in the infield section. It was impossible to overtake on the straight, so it was quite frustrating because I could not overtake on the straight. But in the end, we had a steering failure. Thanks.
No, I don't know. It's the engine just blew up after. I think so. After 10 laps in the race, the engine started misfiring quite heavily, and I was really slow on the straight. Everybody was overtaking me on the straight, and then it just was misfiring all the way through. And then after the pit stop, it just went.
Okay.
Mr. Gerald, come to me now. Quick as you can. Kimi, we've been having these conversations about engine failures. Is it something about the way you drive them, or are you just plain unlucky?
I don't know. I drive as normally, and if the engine doesn't like it.
Give me what?
We've seen a controversial Ferrari formation finish here at Indianapolis. Rubens Barrichello takes the 10 points, 18th successive podium for Michael Schumacher, incredible that. David Coulthard very solid in 3rd, Montoya 4th, Williams 1st Indianapolis finish, Trulli 5th, Villeneuve once an Indy 500 winner in the points. But what was going on between the Ferraris at the checkered flag?
There was no plan. I mean, I felt like I already thought we would do this in Monza to go really side by side. And obviously Rubens wasn't certain enough to do this. Here I felt let's try to go side by side, and then he was first.
At what point did you actually realise that you'd won the race?
At 3/4 of a lap. I mean, after all the final, I was pointing at him. You can see on the camera I was pointing at, did you win? I said, no, you won it. I think it's you. And then we didn't know, and the radio wasn't working well in that area, so I had to wait until we clear turn 8 to see who won it.
The gesture that Michael's trying to make is a nice one in terms of the team spirit. Yeah, and that's fine, but I just think it's confusing a little bit for the public, and you know, I don't want to just be critical, because it's ultimately they've done a great job together to develop that package, but the people seemed a bit confused as to who'd actually won the race.
You know, it's all very well to have a dominant position. We've enjoyed it, as has Williams. I don't think we ever larked about. I always take the Formula One very seriously. It's very tough to get to the top, and when you're there, you should appreciate and respect the position.
Well, I tell you what this will do is this will raise a lot of talk among motorsports fans, and in America that's not necessarily a bad thing, because Formula One will be talked about for the next couple of weeks, whereas if this is a ho-hum finish for Michael, this thing would be dead, so to speak, the next day. Nobody would be talking about it.
Tell us about that incident at the first corner.
I don't know, just, you know, I was going around the outside of Ralph, and I think he spun or something. You know, I was, you know, probably a car ahead of him, and, you know, we keep doing that, we're never going to beat Ferrari, but...
It's obviously completely unacceptable, and obviously we'll be thinking about how we deal with it, but ultimately the drivers are driving the car, but you know, it's completely unacceptable to hit each other where they're in the same team.
There's been a comment from Ron Dennis we were speaking to in the paddock, saying that when you have a domination like Ferrari has, there comes a certain responsibility not to play games like this on the finish line. What would you say to that?
Nothing.
So Barrichello following up that win at Monza with another maximum to cement his runners-up spot in the championship. Montoya, Ralf Schumacher and Coulthard could all finish third. A sixth engine failure of the season for the unlucky Kimi Raikkonen. Meantime, in the constructors, it is 200 up for Ferrari. Williams will now finish second. Elsewhere, unchanged. Tony Jardine, your thoughts on that Ferrari finish?
Well, well-intentioned by Michael Schumacher. I'm sure he thought we can have this victorious formation finish, but it actually is manipulation of the results and an FIA directive about manipulation of results, bringing the sport into disrepute. Rubens, I'm sure, not quite certain what's going on. There's Michael going to the high side, letting him come through. Is he gifting me the win? What do? Then Michael comes back alongside, trying to get a dead heat across the line. All that serves to do is confuse the general public. And again, as I've said, to manipulate a race result like this after they've raced so well, after the fetters have been off, I think is wrong for the general public, and I think it's bad for the sport as well. That's my view.
How do you compare this with what happened in Austria?
Well, in Austria it was even worse because Michael Schumacher knew for quite a few laps that Rubens had been told he'd had to move out of the way, and that was after you and then a guy having to move out of the way. That was even worse at the time, and that's been dubbed Austria Gate since.
The Americans weren't quite sure what they were seeing here, and I don't think they could quite believe it when the two Williams very nearly came into contact with each other early in the race.
It was very disappointing. I'm sure Frank Williams and Patrick Head will be absolutely seething after this still, because a season that's promised so much, and this won't do anything for the relationship between BMW and Williams. Clearly Ralph on the inside going too tight and spins of his own accord. Look at Patrick Head, technical director, going bananas there, nearly taking out Juan Pablo Montoya as well. And eventually Montoya getting the only finish in 3 years here for Williams.
Would you absolve Montoya of any blame there?
Absolutely and totally. But again, you know, he had pole position in Monza. What happened to them? Both the challenges of both the Williams cars just fizzled out, and it wasn't very good here either, was it?
I don't think the McLarens had any realistic hope of catching the Ferraris. Nevertheless, a very steady drive from David Coulthard.
Well, he's been out-qualified by Kimi Raikkonen this year, but he's out-raced Kimi Raikkonen in many circumstances. And you look how smooth he is. He's taking wonderful conventional lines, and then poor Kimi blows up, and that's the third successive blow-up. And as you said, Jim, that's the sixth engine blow-up, right in front of the Mercedes banners there. Second biggest market for Mercedes worldwide, and this is why Mercedes now are buying more shareholding in Ilmore, because they want to try and avoid that situation.
We had access to some superb pictures here this weekend, and we all enjoyed the improved spectacle.
It was a great race. It was a spectacular race, but we had every view. Look at this from the pit stop, from helmet cam, from the mechanics in the Williams. From there you are, from the edge of the hose, and off it goes, overtaking rear shots. So enjoyable, so enjoyable. You felt that you were driving the racing car. I loved it, and it was a tremendous race, spoilt by that formation finish.
Just a word about the sport. Formula One desperately trying to establish a firm foothold here in the United States. How much damage do you think that finish has done?
I would have said quite a bit. Almost as much damage in 1998 when the McLarens manipulated the result and Coulthard let Hakkinen go in front. Do you remember the outrage from the Australians? We were cheated. We paid to see a race. Here, that wasn't a race in the end, was it? You didn't have a clear winner, just confusion.
Nevertheless, it completes the perfect season for Ferrari. They have won absolutely everything, with Barrichello confirming second place.
Yeah, and the other teams have let them do it because they haven't caught them up, and that sort of dominance allows them, that sort of arrogance, to be able to try and get the closest finish in history. I can understand why Schumacher done it, but it's not the right thing to do.
Might just finally, it's just been a bit of driving error there. It might have been very nice if they had the formation finish in the first dead heat in F1 history.
Yeah, but that's so hard to do, Jim.
Sure,
I mean, you can't do that.
OK, Tony, thank you very much indeed. Well, our final port of call this season is Suzuka for the Japanese Grand Prix. Live qualifying 4:30 a.m. on the Saturday. Rerun at lunchtime. The race live from 6 to Sunday morning. Rerun lunchtime again, and the highlights just before midnight. Fine race, great spectacle, in my opinion, tarnished by the events of the last few metres. Good night to you all.